All right, good evening. Welcome to the November 15th Temecula City Council meeting. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. We have, first of all, wanted to thank Elizabeth Vengotia for providing our prelude music this evening. And our invocation this evening will be provided by Apostle Terrence Hundley of the Place City of Miracles Cathedral. And our flag salute will be led by Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Shall we pray? Our eternal God, we thank you for another day that you have blessed us. We come to you now, our Heavenly Father, in this prayer for this great city of Temecula, asking you to bless this city and all the officials in this council meeting on tonight. Lord, allow your face to shine on these servants in this community and be gracious to us all. We pray for your presence and your divine direction during this city council meeting because you are with us wherever we go. We pray this meeting is focused upon the business affairs of this great city of Temecula and for the community here at large. And God, we even pray a special prayer for all of the homeless on tonight. God, everywhere, bless them, and God, even give the city insight as to how to deal with the homelessness in the various cities. And we thank you for this prayer. And it's in Jesus' name we pray, and let everyone say amen.
Amen. All right, join me in saluting the flag. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you so much. Can we have the roll call, please?
Yes, Councilmember Alexander.
Here.
Councilmember Edwards.
Here.
Mayor Ron.
Here.
Councilmember Schwank.
Madam City Clerk, I'm here.
Councilmember Stewart.
Here.
So official. All right. Let's see. We have presentations this evening. If you look at the agenda, we have two. But one of those presentations was done already, proclamation for Pachanga Puesca Mountain Day. And just for those of you folks who haven't heard about this, it's the only city holiday that the city of Temecula has on the books. It has to do with the fight for Liberty Quarry and the preservation of Puesca Mountain. And this is the 10-year anniversary of that successful event. And it's one that we're happy to have celebrated with our friends at Pachanga and many of our community members who helped during that time. So 10 years have gone by very swiftly. And for those of you who were out watching the movie and enjoying the celebration, thank you for joining us. The other is a proclamation for Native American Heritage Month, and I believe we have representatives from Great Oak High School here to join us today. Is that correct? Yes? All right. I'll go ahead and read that proclamation, then hopefully we can hear from some of our students. City of Temecula proclamation, whereas history and culture of our great nation have been significantly influenced by Native Americans and indigenous peoples, the rich, diverse cultures, traditions, and histories of Native Americans have been celebrated throughout the United States and beyond. And whereas Native American Awareness Week was first designated in 1976 under President Ford and was expanded in 1990 as National American Indian Heritage Month and later in 2009 as National Native American Heritage Month. And to date, there are 474 federally recognized tribes and 326 Native American reservations recognized across the United States. Locally, the Pachanga Band of Indians has called the Temecula Valley home for more than 10,000 years. Native American individuals and families are an integral part of the fabric of this community and contribute to its overall economic and quality of life. Native American community members are represented in the public and private sector as professionals, business owners, educators, students, volunteers, veterans, and so much more. These contributions include those of the youth of the community, including the Indigenous Peoples Club of Great Oak High School. Therefore, I, Mayor Matt Ron, on behalf of the City Council, City of Temecula, hereby proclaim the month of November to be National Native American Heritage Month. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you can share a few words.
Hayawis nim Analisa Cortez. Na yokuts hitilaho na kamam apihetsi. Inestuk minhayo. Hello everyone. I would first like to acknowledge that we are on Luceño land and would like to thank the Luceño people. My name is Analisa Cortez and I am from the Tule River Band of Yokuts tribe. I am the current president of the Indigenous Peoples Club of Great Oak. Our club's purpose is to bring culture and inclusivity to Great Oak, as well as giving Indigenous students a place to feel connected to their roots. We have over 50 members that regularly come to our club activities. We are very grateful to have been invited here today. Wakiensis, thank you.
Thank you.
Miu yam chatanam, no tung yuawishaka, no shun ahoyahe lovik no tum kaukala. Hello everyone, my name is Uiwish, and I'm happy to be with you today. On behalf of Great Oak High School's Indigenous Peoples Club, we would like to thank Temecula, the city of Temecula, for inviting us to accept the proclamation of Native American Heritage Month. I would also like to thank Ms. Carrie Bertigretz for giving us a platform and support to be here tonight. I would also like to invite you guys all to come to our Great Oak Youth Powwow on May 20th, 2023. And I would like to end this with a phrase that's very dear to my heart, Noshun Lovik, which means my heart is happy to be here with you all today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.
All right, thank you so much. All right, moving on, we have board and commission reports. We have Mr. Watts this evening. How are you?
Fine, Mr. Mayor. How are you doing? Excuse me. City council members, staff, and members of the public, both here and that are watching on television at home. I'm giving the Planning Commission report. At the top of the picture, you can see your planning commissioners. I'm the chair, vice chair, Lene Turley Trejo, Robert Hagel, Adam Ruiz, and John Telesio. The Planning Commission serves as the designated statutory planning agency for the city of Temecula, reviews and makes recommendations on topics related to subdivisions, specific plans, zone changes, plot plans, and conducts legally required public hearings. And before I forget, we have a meeting tomorrow night in this very hall at 6 o'clock. You're all welcome to come and see what the Planning Commission does and how we function if you care to. Next slide, please. We had a field trip on October 27th to review all of the plans that we've been approving over the last few years. And so the whole commission participated with the planning staff, and we had a marvelous day. As you can see by the pictures, the weather cooperated, and we got an early start in the morning, and we were able to see quite a few projects. Next slide, please. The purpose of the tour is to discuss upcoming construction projects and to assess projects that have been recently built to identify the best design features and elements to modify or avoid in future projects. Next slide, please. And the tour included stops at Hilton Garden Inn, Las Haciendas, Staybridge Suites, Buking Apartments, Mountain View Industrial Buildings, Heirloom Farms, Nicholas and Calle Girasol, Summers Bend, Rendezvous Apartments, Rancho Highlands, and Vine Creek. As you can see, that's quite a tour we packed into 4 hours, and it involved apartments, housing development, affordable housing development, hotels, and industrial buildings as well, and including projects that are on the board and those that have been built. So the commission staff found the tour and discussion to be informative and educational, and we look forward to doing it again in the future when we approve more projects. I think that's it. Next slide. That should do it. So if you have any questions, I'll answer them. If not, I'll beg off to my partner here on the left. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Richardson.
Good evening, Mayor Ron, City Council, and staff. Good to see you guys. I'll be reporting Public Traffic Safety Commission. I'm the current chairman. Robert Carter is our current vice chair. We also have firefighter Eric Ackerman, David Maddox, and Brad Sullivan. The Public Traffic Safety Commission reviews and makes recommendations on topics related to speed zones, stop signs, signals, pavement markings, traffic design engineering, all things traffic and safety. And our last meeting was October 27th, 2022. Commissioner Carter was absent, so we had a quorum of 4. Our first item was we received a draft update of the local hazard mitigation plan from our hazard Office of Emergency Management here in the city, and basically got the rundown on how this plan is updated, how it's evolved over time. It's really interesting how the hazards that are in this mitigation plan do evolve and adapt as times and threats adapt. The last update was in 2017, so this current draft update is for the revision that's due in 2023. And that was a receive and file item for our commission. And the next slide. So we also looked at the engineering and traffic survey update and voted for nothing to accept that. And this is basically looking at the speed limit surveys. Do we need to go up or down? And if you look at the next slide, it's the list of speed limits that were changed. So next slide. There they are. So these are the speed limits that were changed this time around. And you see they are all reductions this time. And the ones I'd like to point out specifically here are Pechanga Parkway, Casino Drive south to the city limits, Peppercorn Drive there, Red Hawk Parkway to Vail Ranch Parkway, and at the bottom, Winchester Road, Nicholas Road to East City limits. All of these are in high school zones. So it's really good to see that the traffic calming measures that Patrick and the team have been doing, we're now, it takes a while for it to get through the cycle, but we're seeing, we get the complaints, traffic's too fast here. We do the striping when we do the slurry seal and we can restripe the road. And then we see the result is that it works. Restriping the lanes, the visual friction really does work, slows people down, the survey proves it out, and we're reducing speed limits in these school zones. So really great to see that come full cycle. The next page is just a list of all of the speed limits that were confirmed during the current cycle. And this is on a 6 or 7 year update here plan. So all of these speed limits were measured and confirmed to be appropriate. So no increases this time around. And Temecula is safer because of this activity. And I believe that concludes my report.
All right. Well, way to go, Temecula residents, for not speeding. That's, round of applause there, especially you high school students here tonight. Yeah. All right. Let's see, Chief Crater, how about that public safety report tonight?
It's coming, Mayor. Thank you. And council members, staff, and our wonderful residents here in the city of Temecula. Your fire department's been hard at work for the month of October 2022. We ran 862 calls in the city. 660 of those were medical-related calls. 10 of those were fires, and 74 traffic collisions within the city limits. Next slide. Also, our fire prevention office has still continued to be busy. On the right, you could see year-to-date, but just for plan reviews in the month of October, 495, construction inspections, 371, annual inspections, which are our life safety inspections, to make sure that businesses in the city are safe for our residents to go shop, and then also if we get any kind of emergency there, that all the systems are working properly to protect our firefighters as well. And then 31 folks came in and actually visited in person to have their plan reviews, construction inspections looked at in our office and completed. Next slide. I added this slide this month. We've been busy and we really don't talk about it a whole lot in city council meetings, but I think it's important when we talk about events and what we're doing as far as public outreach and public education, not only to adults, but also our children who are sponges, and they pick up on this and most likely will teach their parents how to be safe at home and point things out with exit drills and things of that matter. So school events, we had 7, and I will just go through this. Adult education, when we're talking about CERT training, CPR, first aid, and things of that nature, 2 classes last month. And then fairs, safety expos, 5 displays where we actually get out in the community and show people safe practices at home, 2, and then station tours, which is typically schools contacting us and wanting to come to the fire station and do a tour and see the fire engine and see kind of what we do at the fire station. And then we also educate them on, stop, drop, and roll and things that they could watch out for at home to, be safe. In case of a fire, I think it's very scary when there's a fire at home and they see us in all their gear. We don't want them to actually see us for the first time then. When we come to their home for an emergency, we want them to be familiar with us so they're not scared of us and they actually don't hide under a bed or in a closet, and they actually come to us so we're searching for them in a fire environment. So all these things are important. Total number of hours, 46 hours in the community, and then public contacts over 2,500. I'm going to go over a couple of events that we've had in the last month that have taken us quite a while to put together, and a lot of thought has went into it. Top right, that's our new blow-up education inflatable house. Before, we used to drive around in a trailer, and it was kind of clunky. You couldn't get it into a lot of places, but this is portable. We can move it anywhere we need to, and it really is serving well. We did roll it out for a mini muster, which I'll get to, and this teaches our children and our adults, exit drills in the home, fire safety, smoke detectors, safety with stoves, turn those pot handles in. Remember, we used to see that on TV all the time to prevent burns and children getting to those and getting hot liquid dumped on them. And then electrical safety as well. We had an open house at Station 95 as a little test run for some of the things that our firefighters dedicated and volunteered their time to make for the mini muster. And as you can see there, the kids get to put on the gear, and we really need to start sparking interest in our profession. So this is a step toward that. Next slide. And this is our first annual mini muster we had in the Stampede parking lot. It was a success. We had quite a few kids there with their parents, and everybody was able to get involved at some level, whether that was squirting water, having competitions, putting on our gear. You could see RSO was there with us. They want to be firefighters, so we were training them as well. So maybe we're making some steps here. But no, it was a fun event had by all, and we appreciate the support and the turnout and getting together with our partners in the city and having a good time. And then for Halloween, trunk or treat at Station 12 downtown. I know we had over 300 children come there, and more of the same. It's that public outreach and having them come into our home, which is your home. All of our fire stations are your fire stations, and we want to be engaged with the community at all times. I'd like to thank the city of Temecula, Erica Russo, the time put in with your staff, Wendy Miller, and our fire prevention staff, and our firefighters that engage the community and love the city of Temecula. And that concludes my report. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Fantastic. Any questions? Great report.
Thank you.
Now you're starting to recruit from the sheriff's department. So
We
that's
are,
good.
yeah.
All right. Let's see. Public comment. Do we have any public comment this evening?
Mr. Mayor, we do have 2 public comments on non-agendized items. So we'll go ahead and call them up right now. They'll have 3 minutes each, and the rest of the rules are printed on the agenda. The first speaker is Bryant Rumbaugh, and after Bryant is Stephen Gerard.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Good to see you again. You'll have to forgive me. I actually just kind of feel like I just got punched in the stomach, more or less. A dear friend of mine, it looks like, is getting arrested right now in San Diego at the 5:30 p.m. Board of Supervisors meeting. I was there today. There's a lot of people in this country right now who recognize that these are not good times. And we have a lot there's a lot of unsurety. And about more or less my story here. About 2 years ago, I was trying to get I'm just a simple electrician, okay? I was trying to get a important message out to the world. And really what it is how to solve some of these obstacles that, you can say humanity, I'm an individual here. I'm not a right wing, left wing. Don't be, trying to put me in a box. Good luck with that. But ultimately, we are up against, we can call it principalities. And, how is it that we are going to, I agree with this gentleman. These children, they are sponges to everything. And I've seen some pretty twisted things even in the last couple weeks. But, ultimately what my story is that, after 2008 happened, I kind of found myself learning a lot about history. More so, I'm a construction management graduate, more so than I ever thought that I ever would have wanted to. But my quest for truth kept me digging and digging and digging. And, years later, I was recognizing really what it was, that people were essentially okay with. And the message that I was trying to get out is, to combat this, we need to be innovative. And I wanted to see Temecula, because we always, like I told you the last time I spoke, we always have been a little bit of against the grain. We've been maybe trendsetters, but ultimately we can utilize some of these tools that we have available, and we can really kind of stymie a lot of these problems that have been exploited. When I was growing up in 1995, Temecula High School, I had black friends. And we all thought that racism was something that, like, the previous generations had to deal with. And all these things are getting just recycled back. I'm not going to have enough time to really get into what it is that I want to see happen. It does involve taking the money out of politics, which is easy, I'm telling you.
Thank you.
And the last speaker is Stephen Gerard Sidolarski.
Evening.
It's a nice attempt there. Sidlovsky, and the commanding officer of the USS Enterprise would just call me Ski when I served honorably aboard that. Beloved City Council of Temecula and citizens, I've come back here to apply myself because I know that Temecula is in a transitional state right now. Thank you, council members. If you're outgoing, thank you. In the military, we just say a special gesture that's fair winds and following seas. And I know that even if you're outgoing in Temecula, you'll be doing other things anyway that pertains to it in your lives. I've given some of the citizens my continued flyer so that you learn that the new direction of Temecula for pro-life is moving in the new direction of establishing a city charter. Right now, you really don't have much clout until you establish your city charter. Why am I supporting this new direction? I sat for a year and a half monitoring my own hometown of Lorain, Ohio, which attempted to establish a city charter. I always ask the question, how can pro-life, how can this new possibility constitutionally be placed in the charter? I think that's a fair question. It's a very fair question. And I learned quite a bit during that journey. And because of that particular journey for a year or so, we actually have language for all 18,000 cities in the United States. Unfortunately, not all 18,000 cities are charter cities. Yourselves and San Clemente are not charter cities. So it's going to take you a 15-member commission. Maybe some of the outgoing individuals decide to be one of those commissioners. It'll take you about a year and a half to establish a city charter. And that's why I'm here. I see a vision, I see possibilities, and I see great love in Temecula. I really do. So if you haven't received the Bible bookmark, get that from me too. The one gentleman talked about history. I encourage everybody in the City Council chamber to order the book, The American Covenant. It's a very good book to order. And you've got a beautiful priest in Orange County, Father Robert Spitzer, who's written the book, Healing the Culture. We all need some healing. We really do when it comes to stability and sensibility for the United States of America. Continue to look to your flag with pro-life eyes. That's my final guidance. God bless you all. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, those are our only speakers on non-agendized items.
Okay, thank you. City council reports. Anybody? Nothing from nobody. All right. Moving on to the consent calendar. Item number 1, waive reading of standard ordinances resolutions. Item number 2, approve action minutes of October 25, 2022. Number 3, approve list of demands. Number 4, approve city treasurer's report as of July 31st, 2022 and August 31st, 2022. Number 5, adopt the 2022 Conflict of Interest Code. 6, approve amendment to the City of Temecula Section 125 Cafeteria Plan. 7, adopt resolution declaring city-owned parcels located at 28725 and 28731 Pujol Street to be exempt from Surplus Land Act. Item number 8, approve First Amendment to the minor maintenance agreement with Craftsman Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, Inc. Number 9, approve First Amendment for General Plan Update Citywide Traffic Analysis Services. 10, approve increase to contingency authorization for fiber optic communication system upgrade project PW 18-05.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, please cast your votes.
Councilmember Schwank?
I selected yes.
Okay. It's unanimous, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, well, there you go, 5-0. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to recess to the community services.
And I will call to order the Temecula Community Services District meeting. Madam Secretary, please note we're all still here. Are there any public comments? All right. So we'll move on to the consent calendar, which is number 11, approve action minutes of October 25th, 2022.
Approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please vote. All right, that passes 5-0. So we're off to the director's report.
There we go. Just a couple of items tonight. First of all, I'd like to thank Chief Crater for the mini muster event he talked about earlier. It's really a fantastic first-time event for us to be involved in, and we can't wait to see that again next year. Kids had a really great time at that. Also, the National Preparedness Fair, which we had to reschedule because it was originally scheduled earlier, and then we had the Fairview Fire. So many of the people who would have come to the fair to help us all be more prepared were obviously very, very busy dealing with that. So we've rescheduled it for this Saturday, November 19th. You can join us from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the Civic Center quad out front. At this family-friendly event, you can meet local disaster service workers, learn about emergency preparation, and enjoy free activities. And then we have a couple of seasonal events coming up. First of all, Santa's Arrival on Friday, November 25th. You can meet Mr. Claus at his cozy cottage located next to Penny Pickle's workshop from 6 to 9 p.m. After his special entrance, you can visit Santa on the weekends from Saturday, November 26th to Sunday, December 18th. And hours are Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., and Sundays, 1 to 4 p.m. And then finally, you won't want to miss our Christmas tree lighting. We do that every year over at the Duck Pond. This year it's on Monday, November 28th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. You can enjoy the countdown to light the Christmas tree, as well as tasty treats, and share a visit with Santa Claus in case you missed him when he came into town at Penny Pickles. For a complete list of festivities, you can visit temeculaca.gov/holidays. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. And I should have put a slide together because we were actually like the number 2 city of magical Christmas doings. I posted it on my Facebook page, but and I should have had it up for this, but people do recognize the city of Temecula does do some pretty amazing, fun, family events for Christmas. So, all right, do we have a general manager's report?
Nothing further, Mr.
All right.
President.
Any board of directors? Nope. All right, I will adjourn until next time.
All right, go ahead and reconvene in the Temecula City Council meeting and start the public hearing. Item number 12 is to approve Community Development Block Grant Substantial Amendment to the 2022-23 CDBG Annual Action Plan for the reallocation of CDBG funds to the Mary Phillips Senior Center. And good evening. Can we have a staff report, please?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Frank Perez with MDG Associates, representing the city and the Community Development Department as its CDBG program consultant. I'm here tonight to present the proposed substantial amendment number 1 to our 22-23 annual action plan. This amendment outlines the designation of CDBG funds to a specific capital improvement project. For a little bit of context and background, the city, as a reminder, prepares a 5-year document called its Consolidated Plan, and that plan provides a strategic vision for community development, housing, and economic type activities. The Consolidated Plan is also carried out through yearly annual action plans. And most recently, if you recall, April of this year, staff brought over that 5-year Consolidated Plan. And this would be the first year of the 22-23 annual action plan for that 5-year cycle. The proposed amendment for tonight would be to meet requirements that are prescribed in the city's citizen participation plan, where if there is to be any change to an annual action plan for any of the reasons listed on the screen above, that such changes actually be brought through a substantial amendment. The amendment would be triggered under item B, which would be to substantially amend the proposed scope, location, or beneficiaries of a project. I'm here tonight along with city staff to bring you a recommended substantial amendment to officially assign allocated capital improvement project funds to a specific project location, the Mary Phillips Senior Center, and to update the annual action plan project scopes description. The substantial amendment is programming the 22-23 CDBG funds that were set aside for a project that would remove architectural barriers for public right-of-ways on roadways and would officially assign those funds in the amount of $331,014 to the Mary Phillips Senior Center project. The tables on your screen outline the change in the project's name and changing that from an unassigned CIP location to the Mary Phillips Senior Center ADA Improvement Project. And along would change the project's description from the removal of architectural barriers for public right-of-ways on roadways and public facilities to actually project funds will be assigned to remove architectural barriers and ensure safe and proper access to those in need located at the Mary Phillips Senior Center. This does conclude my presentation, and with that, staff recommends that the City Council adopt one resolution for the substantial amendment to the 22-23 annual action plan. Myself and staff are here available to address any questions should you have any.
Okay, any questions? All right, we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Do we have any public comments? No. Well, then I guess we'll close the public hearing. All right. Any comments, City Council? All right, seeing none, I'm looking for a motion.
Move the item.
Second.
And that passes 5-0. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All All right, moving on to business items. Item number 13 is approve recommendation for community services funding reinvestment in Temecula grant program for fiscal year 2022-23 at the request of members Schwank and Stewart.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if I could. Tonight, Councilmember Alexander will not participate in the council discussion and action on the birth choice application, which is part of this agenda item, because she is an employee of Birth Choice and supervises its Temecula operations. Under state law, Councilmember Alexander cannot participate in this portion of the discussion. In order to fulfill these obligations, the following procedures will be in place. Councilmember Alexander needs to leave the dais in the council chamber. Staff will present the agenda report on item 13, and the council will receive public comments. And then following the comments on item 13, council will discuss the birth choice application and decide whether to approve, modify, or deny the application. Following council action on the birth choice application, Councilmember Alexander may return to the council chamber and take her place on the dais. At this point, the council and Councilmember Alexander, with Councilmember Alexander participating, will consider the other applications for community reinvestment funding.
Okay. Give her a moment to leave. All right, can we get a staff report, please?
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor Ron and Council. You all know me, but for the benefit of the public, my name is Betsy Lowry. I am Assistant to the City Manager. And the city's annual Community Service Funding Program has historically granted up to $5,000 for programs and services offered by local nonprofits to benefit Temecula residents. The typical annual budget of $100,000 was approved to be increased this year and next by $1 million, and with grants up to $50,000 as part of the city's adopted post-COVID community reinvestment program. These funds are specifically required to be infused into the community by nonprofit organizations that benefit Temecula residents only. The application period was open from July 1 to mid-September. The city received approximately 68 applications requesting close to $2.3 million with a budget of $1.1 million. Mayor Pro Tem Zach Swank and Council Member Stu Stewart served as the council subcommittee and reviewed each of these applications together with staff. It is a difficult job with so many very good programs. After careful consideration, I probably should move my slides. After careful consideration, the City Council Subcommittee recommendation will subsidize 51 programs totaling $1,090,500, leaving $9,500 in the fund. Each of the recommended organizations to be funded are listed in the summary sheet that is attached to the staff report and at the dais as well, and also here on the screen. And I will quickly just go through 5 slides that have 50 different organizations, and one organization has 2 programs. These are the organizations that are recommended for funding between the amounts of $5,000 up to $50,000. There are a few organizations that the subcommittee provided additional clarity. Aim for Good. Funds are limited strictly to assist special needs art camp, special needs programs, and arts community programs. That's it. Birth Choice of Temecula. Funds shall not be used for any printed material and or marketing and or outreach, and shall only be for items to help pregnant mothers, new parents, and babies, toddlers with necessities such as diapers and formula, car seats, clothing, and the like. Wishers and Dreamers. Funds must only serve Temecula-based medical offices and our hospital for the benefit of Temecula citizens. And again, all city funds for all applications are required to be used for the benefit of Temecula residents only. Again, the recommendation by the subcommittee is to fund 51 programs. I'm happy to answer any of your questions. And the recommendation is on the screen here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions? All right. Well, we're looking for a
We do have public speakers.
public comment. Yes, on this item in
on this
particular?
one.
Okay.
So we have two public comments. The first one is from Denise Lanier, and the second one is from Kim Garish. So Denise, if you want to go ahead and come on up. Each speaker has 5 minutes under the business portion, and the rules are stated on the agenda. Welcome, Denise.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, commissioners, city staff. I'm Denise Lanier. I'm the past president of Assistance League of Temecula Valley. I'm also currently a community ambassador, thrift shop day manager, Operation Bear Hug chair, grants committee member, which all fall under volunteer. We are made up of 100% volunteers, and as a nonprofit organization have been serving Southwest Riverside County for 33 plus years. What a privilege it is to stand here before you to share our mission, which is to serve the needs and improve the well-being of the residents of Temecula most effectively. We are honored to be considered for the community service funding to reinvest in Temecula by providing charitable goods and services that will specifically benefit Temecula residents, neighborhoods, and communities. Assistance League of Temecula Valley's 5-point program is a perfect fit for the community services funding by providing various basic needs in clothing, food, health, literacy, and supplies. I love the word reinvestment. Reinvestment is a promise to Temecula residents to assist them in becoming more functional, productive members of their community and an opportunity to foster a sense of community culture. Assistance League works closely with Temecula middle and high schools to provide supplies for the LCAP program, the special needs preschool program, and foster youth, as well as elementary school support. In addition, we work closely with Temecula Transitional Housing and the Community Pantry. Clothing is provided to low to moderate income families, foster and homeless youth, as well as emergency clothing to students in need. We provide food for school programs and local food pantries. Our health services provide hygiene kits for foster and homeless, and teddy bears to local hospitals to comfort children in crisis. We also provide supplies to the schools, such as backpacks, school supplies, fidget toys, etc., as needed when LCAP school counselors identify specific needs. The services provided and supplies purchased directly benefit Temecula residents. Services and supplies were and will continue to be distributed to residents through the LCAP counselors, Rancho Dalmacitas Empowerment Village, foster youth agencies, Community Mission of Hope, Temecula Transitional Housing, non-minor dependents, Temecula Valley Hospital, and Temecula schools for various basic needs. Under our 5-point program, and with the assistance of this grant, we estimate that we will be able to help approximately 2,100 deserving residents of Temecula. We appreciate this Temecula City Council for giving this grant request consideration and partnering with us throughout the years by helping provide basic needs to Temecula children and families. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without partners like you. Thank you.
Next
Thank you.
speaker is Kim Garish.
Good evening, Mayor Ron, council, and staff. It's always a pleasure to see you. And thank you for your continued support of Michelle's Place Cancer Resource Center. I look at all your faces and I'm filled with gratitude, to be honest. Thank you for this opportunity as well. This is huge. This is going to change a lot of lives in our community through all the nonprofits that are up for consideration. But I'm here tonight for a couple, Michelle's Place and the Rotary Club of Temecula. This grant for Michelle's Place would provide funding for some of our current programs, but specifically to expand some of our current programs. Unfortunately, we used to average about 42 new cancer patients a month, and we're trending at 74. We thought it was a fluke, but unfortunately, it looks like it's the reality. So of course, we need more of everything, and we would like to expand those programs. This grant will help serve just about 425 Temecula cancer patients. It'll help expand our men's support group, our art program. We need to provide more chemotherapy kits, more toolkits, more mastectomy kits, just a little bit more of everything. Financial assistance and transportation is always a need, getting to medical appointments to San Diego and Orange County. So I thank you for your consideration and your continued support of Michelle's Place, and again for this opportunity. I also have the privilege of being the president of the Temecula Noon Rotary Club, who's also up for consideration this evening. The Temecula Rotary Club does a lot of things, but specifically in regards to this grant, the funding would directly affect 660 Temecula residents. We provide food and transportation to low-income seniors, military, and Temecula Unified School District families. We deliver food once a month to low-income seniors to their homes, box food and gift cards, holiday dinners at the senior center, and then about 250 families through the Temecula Unified School District who are low income and in need. And then at Christmas time, we do the same thing. So again, thank you so much for your support for that program and the programs that we utilize through the city and the Temecula Rotary Club, and for your consideration. Thank you all.
All right, thanks so much.
Mr. Mayor, that concludes public comments.
All right. So,
At this point, you need to make a decision on the birth choice application, and then Councilmember Alexander can come back in to decide the rest.
all right. So given that one application right now, we're looking for council discussion or questions or a motion.
Go ahead, Steve.
I was just gonna, you got a question?
Well, I do actually.
Okay.
So in looking through all of these, and this might make a difference, but in looking through all of these, I noticed that First T has asked for $25,000, and I spoke with someone from First T. They actually provide after-school character development, and they teach kids how to play golf, needy kids, and right now they have a waiting list of 650, and that's just in Temecula. So they happen to have a matching grant from the Charles Schwab Foundation, and if they can raise $50,000, Charles Schwab will give them
Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, but we have to focus on birth choice.
Well, I
first.
am, because the suggestion I have might impact that. Anyway, they are getting, a matching grant for $32,000. And if we can get them up to $50,000 somehow, they will receive that grant for an additional $32,000. So I wanted to put this out there and see. So there are 9,500 remaining in the fund. Plus the $25,000 they're getting, that leaves them $15,500 short of that goal to where they could get a matching funds. And the only way I see of doing this is making up the 15,000 is to maybe take 1% or so from each of the awardees and add that together. And it would be a small amount, for.
Not sure how that affects birth choice, though.
Yeah. Well, they're one of the awardees. That's the only reason I'm bringing it up now. If we would consider a way to take a little bit from each one of these, and they're just part of that. That's why I wanted to bring it up, so if you want to keep that in mind. If we took 1.5%, for example, on a $50,000, on a $25,000 grant, you know, that's going to be $375. And it's a lot of math for staff to do, but it would be able to bring First Tee up to the required amount so that they could get the extra $32,000 in matching funds.
My problem with that is I don't necessarily want to take money away from needy moms and families.
Oh, I don't either.
For people to play golf, kids to learn how to play golf.
Let me make a quick recommendation on
Yeah.
that. Let's table that discussion.
Yeah.
Because I think we need the other council member here, since it's not directly impacting
Yeah, that's okay. The only
that
reason
one.
I asked is because
Actually,
if
it
we
would.
do it.
She wouldn't be able to discuss a
Right.
1% reduction on birth choice.
Well,
Right, but
on
until we
everything.
get a consensus on what to do with the birth choice funding right now, so then that's off the table.
Okay,
So,
then it's
you know,
off
that's
the
what I'm
table.
saying, is we need to kind of move that off the table to be able to have
And
the rest.
Stu, these are actually
So-
needy kids, and it's an after-school program that takes them off, out of the streets, off the streets. So just throwing that out there. The only reason I brought it up, Peter, was if we would go ahead and do that.
No, I understand that.
For 1%
That's
reduction,
fine.
it would also involve birth choice. So, but we're talking of a couple $100 from each one of the awardees, yeah.
Stu, you're not super in favor of
No,
that?
I'm not
Yeah.
in support of that. And there was another one that Matt pointed out to me that
Yeah, I'll
I
get
don't
to
even,
that one.
I don't
Yeah.
even remember voting on that
Yeah,
one. But
I wouldn't necessarily be in favor of that either.
yeah,
but
so
Zach,
so
you have
right
any-
there's another $7,500 that we could throw to Mary
Okay.
Ann's idea.
Yeah, well, so it was a privilege to serve on this committee, and as the song goes, "Mo money, mo problems."
Yeah.
This is not easy at all. Like, this is ridiculous. I'd rather not go through the 1% off each one.
Yeah.
I mean, we tried to round up in
I know you
cases in there.
did.
I mean,
That's why I
just
said it's
super
ridiculous,
difficult.
but-
I am supportive of that, but we can talk about that at that point.
Okay.
I was conflicted when we brought this up. Not going to lie about that, which is why there is the language in there for what this grant funding is to go to. I'm supportive of that. I know that they do well in the community and provide parents in need of many items, and this is what that's going to go for. So if we're just going to do this item,
Let's just
we
vote.
can just move this item, and then we can talk about First Tee
Okay.
after
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, still looking for a motion?
I'll motion that we move this item forward.
All right,
I'll second it.
The recommendation that's before you on
just to
item
Yes.
number
fund
5, birth
correct.
choice.
that
Just
one
for
item.
Birth
6.
choice.
Yes. Please cast your votes. And
Councilmember Edwards, okay, and then Councilmember Schwank,
I clicked yes.
okay.
And that passes 4-0 with an abstention from Councilmember Alexander. Okay, thank you. And then we'll get into the next part of that, if we could bring her back in the room. I know you can hear me. All right. All right, Ms. Lowry, do we have more on the staff report now?
No, just here for questions.
Okay. All right, so here we are. We've got the rest of these to evaluate for funding. And do we have any questions of staff first?
No questions.
There. No questions. Okay, so then, public comment. No public comment beyond what we've already done. That's right, because you two came up. Out of all the organizations, you guys came up. You're rock stars. Okay, so any comments by council?
Can I open it up? if you
Please.
don't mind? Okay, so like I said just a minute ago, it's certainly a pleasure to serve on this subcommittee. I serve on the Community Services Subcommittee when we're talking in the $5,000 increments. Now we're talking in significantly larger, we can make really, really deep impacts into the community. When we discussed this a while ago, last year, about reinfusing this, we made good on that promise. And there were some naysayers in the audience that thought that we weren't going to do this. We certainly did it. And I'm very proud of the work that Councilmember Stewart and I have put in. Having said that, this is just sort of like the opening salvo, if you will. I know and I would expect my colleagues to push back on some things and have a good, solid discussion about everything in here. It's very difficult going through this list of organizations and really sort of slimming it down, if you will, because we didn't have enough money every time we talk about this. Even though we're giving over $1 million, infusing that into community, it's still not enough at times. So just having said that, I look forward to the conversation, and we can go line by line if that's necessary, or if you just want to pick a few out that you would like to see movement on. Certainly excited to hear what everyone has to say.
All right. Anyone else?
You would think it'd be really fun to give away $1 million, but it's a lot
really
harder
not.
than you think, so.
Definitely. I have a couple questions if nobody else does. One of those, and for those of you who do know me, know I really care about dogs, but item 12 there, providing Temecula pet owners with financial assistance for cost related to pet diabetes. Be honest, I'm struggling with that a little bit, given the intent of what the funds were as we described, that we're here to help nonprofits, and specifically we wanted to prioritize, those that are related to public health, public safety, community services, and so forth.
I have a thought on that
Somebody
too,
needs to
Matt.
explain that one to me.
Do you want an explanation first?
Well,
I mean, if somebody has one.
Well, my question was on this one, if we do this, how do we know, how do we, where is the accountability for giving the money away? If they're taking our money and giving it to people for pet diabetes, how do we know what those people are then going to use the money for?
I don't remember even discussing this one, but.
Okay. I'm actually going, so
Yeah.
let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So there was another one on here, Bike Temecula Valley. I thought we had agreed on 10,000 for them, and it's marked at 7,500. Cause for Pause, now, I want to say we didn't do anything for them. It was
Okay.
a new applicant, and we were sort of
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
fence about
Right.
it. It was, okay, it's here, so
Yeah.
I'll take the heat for it, that it is here. But I genuinely don't think that we settled on this.
No, I
this
don't
one.
believe so either.
Typically with CDBG funding, because Stu and I were on that committee prior, is that first-time applicants we remember them, but we don't fund them because we want them to have more of a track record that we can look back and see a history of service, so.
And those were some of the conversations we had. So again, Stu and I were on the subcommittee. I will certainly take the brunt of that heat for that. But like I said, I don't recall us settling on that amount.
I don't either.
And just to go back to the Bike Temecula Valley, I'm really positive we settled on 10,000, and I see 7,500 in the staff report.
Where is it?
It's number 5 is Bike Temecula Valley.
Okay. I just want to confirm, I believe you're right. So I would think that you had 10,000. Looking at Cause for Pause, the one above is canine support, and I think that's what you were wanting to support in terms of animals, so just putting that out there.
So
So I believe 10,000 was for the Bike Temecula.
yeah, and I think that just was in relation to because I recall that they raised 10,000 for CMOH just in that first year, and so we started talking
I
about
think
10,000.
you all
at that
talked about it. That was at least an initial discussion, so I do recall that as well. If that helps with the turning around. So if I'm hearing you right, the Cause for Pause is 0, and the 10,000 would go to Bike Temecula, if that's what
Yeah.
you're.
And if Cause for Pause is listening, this is not a knock on anyone's nonprofit, right?
No, they're
This
new.
is
It's
yeah.
first time.
This was their first application.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just unfortunate that we have to have this discussion right now.
So what are we doing with?
Mr. Mayor, if I could also just remind everyone to, we're fortunate to be able to reinvest $1.1 million this fiscal year. But the way this program is set up, we will also be in front of this city council this time next year, or probably earlier next year, giving away another 1.1 reinvested back into nonprofits too. So you have 2 bites at this apple.
Absolutely, great point.
Yeah, I looked at their website. I'm not really seeing a whole lot of information as far as what they're really doing. Unfortunately, I'd like to have some more info on that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind, finding out more about the organization, but just as is, I'm struggling to see how it fits, and so maybe if this was just an oversight, so thank you for helping to clear that up. So what that means is, and I'm just trying to figure out the difference here, if for first tee, I believe, because if they're relying on this, or if this helps boost them up for service to, several hundred more children in the community, and this pushes them into that matching grant status, then, I'd hate to see us not do that.
Right.
So it looks like maybe right now we're roughly 19.5 away, if my math is correct.
No, if you actually take the balance of 9,500
Yeah.
plus the 7,500 that you just freed up, you got 17. I think the request was 25 above and beyond.
Yeah.
So that
Okay.
would lead you to $8,000 short by my math.
That's correct.
Okay, but it's
That's
actually
correct.
closer, it's because we'd move Bike Temecula, we'd move them up to 10 instead of 5.
Oh, correct.
No, it
Right.
was 75 to
Yeah,
10.
but you've got 75 now, they requested 10, so we put them, so we're actually 19.5 short.
I think 10.5.
No.
I have 10.5.
10.5.
So if we're at, $25,000, and then you add 9,500.
Right,
Okay. And then you add 7,500.
Right.
right.
And then that equals 42,000, and then you subtract 2,500 to go to Bike Temecula. You're at 39,500, and that's where they're at right now.
39,500,
So they need
Okay.
to get 10,500.
yeah,
Okay.
getting closer.
So, and we're talking about an incremental reduction in every grant to get 10,500, and Marion,
About
interesting
$206.
suggestion. Yeah, I mean, interesting, just take 1% off everybody to make the delta or whatever, but,
Yeah.
Mr. City Manager, I mean, $10,500 here, do we have any flexibility? I know we do have a little bit of flexibility in those existing funds, not that particular allocation, but do we have flexibility to find another 10.5 out of what's remaining?
I think if the council goes through this list and you are all in agreement that all 50-plus nonprofits are recommended for funding at the recommended levels, and we're going to be short 10.5, we will find the commitment to find the 10.5.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
But let's go through that exercise.
Oh, and then because leveraging, leveraging is what we like to see in an organization that receives grant funds. We want them to stretch those funds as far as they can, and if we can do 10.5 and get 32,000 for it, that's a good return.
All right.
So I do have one question, and I'm going to lean on my subcommittee partner for this one. So items 59A and 59B, so the Salvation Army had one of 2 applicants, and if I recall correctly, we agreed on the 13.5 for the back-to-school event, but then when we talked about homelessness, we talked about what, the city's already doing, and I don't recall us having, settling on 20 for Temecula homeless prevention provided through Salvation, through the Salvation Army.
That I can confirm, honestly. We all had taken notes, and that's exactly what everybody's notes had.
Okay,
Because I questioned that too. I thought, did we do both? But
'Cause-
we did.
okay.
Are we just putting them out there? Any questions that we have is?
Yeah.
that we're at? Okay, so I'd like to, if we can ever look at 21. It's a new applicant. His little, there we go, His Little Feet. It actually is located here in Temecula, and I just by chance ended up well, nothing is by chance, but I just ended up having to have a meeting actually with this individual and finding out more about His Little Feet. And one of the things that it really hit me hard was realizing that children who do not have shoes, whether shoes that fit or something that looks halfway decent, by the time of middle school, they end up dropping out. And that really was something that kind of hit my heart and saying, okay, listen, does a kid, in my opinion, need a pair of $50, $75 shoes? No. But the fact of the matter is to be able to provide shoes for a child to walk to school, for a child to be warm enough, I just think is very important. And I just think that, if we could be able to give something to this organization here in Temecula just to, because they do a lot of work here in the area, I just think would be a really wonderful thing for our community.
I have an idea for that, actually. So they're looking for shoes, but if we send all these kids to Operation School Bell, she's shaking her head in the back, they will get 3 complete outfits, a coat, and
But it's not
shoes.
just school children. I'm just giving a part of it. So they go from babies all the way up to young adults.
Well, we can go from K to senior in high school, from kindergarten to 12th grade with OSB. And they'll get clothing too. So, and I don't know how many that leaves, but that's one.
And they're only asking for 10. So, I mean, if there is some money that we could, I'm
not opposed to it. I
Right.
just think,
Of where-
and let's send them there anyway. And then they'll get clothes too.
Mr. Mayor, over here.
No.
I ran into my office, and so I probably missed some of the conversation, but I actually got my notes from the subcommittee meeting. And I know there was conversation regarding costs for pause, and actually the allocation was $7.5 thousand. And the note was basically, it was a new applicant, but in this case, since we had additional funds, the subcommittee was willing to give this a try. I have others if it comes up, but it's pretty much vetted too, so,
Okay.
again.
Fair enough.
So then are we going to ignore the new applicant? Typical the policy that we,
Well, we
it
actually,
doesn't matter, but.
we actually funded Green Acres,
Yeah.
therapy, we
Okay.
funded Good Samaritan Food Pantry. So we funded
Okay.
quite a few, actually.
All right.
So,
With respect to item 21, His Little Feet, I think, this is all we have to go off of.
Right.
And so we saw Long Beach.
And
yeah,
that's, I
right?
remember we were in I think, who was I in the committee with last year? Was it you and I? I think you and I were in there
Maybe.
last year. And I know that was one of the things that, whatever the address came out, but I know they're located here. So if that's a barrier or something that is like, we don't know, I absolutely know that they're located here in
That could
Temecula.
be their accountant or something.
that
So-
was a barrier.
Yeah, that was a consideration. And then, if I recall correctly, we felt like it was a pass-through almost because he's just turning around and donating to Rose Again, to Michelle's Place and Oak Grove and things like that.
Oh,
So we
yeah.
felt like
Right.
it was just kind of a pass-through
Yeah.
donation. Again, not taking anything away from any of the nonprofits that are doing this amazing work. It's just when we were in there with an hour and a half to try, 2 hours to try to, it's very difficult. So when we say we have a lot of money, clearly we're actually looking in the couch cushions for another $9,500. So,
And I'm just confirming what you said, yeah, we really avoid trying to do pass-throughs, where we donate to an organization and that organization turns around and gives it to another organization.
Councilmember Alexander, just another idea while you guys are looking over that. But I don't know the current balances, but each of you every fiscal year has $5,000 of discretionary use that can be applied to a nonprofit. So if you have not used your $5,000 this fiscal year, this might be a nonprofit. If it's not funded, you can consider doing it. So.
That's gone. Thank you.
And
Can I
just for
ask a-
clarification, there was a lot of going back and forth,
Yeah.
7,500, 10,000, and it'd be, to make it fair for all of the nonprofits.
Right.
Just from this dialogue, you can see how difficult the task in front of you is.
And that's probably why I would still not contribute to the what's called some.
His Little Feet.
His Little Feet is primarily because of that, because they're basically donating to other organizations and, yeah. And,
Okay.
And so, yeah. That's,
Okay.
But I would send them to OSB.
Absolutely.
Can I ask on number 14 there? Because we're, the earlier recommendation, we're talking about the limitation that was placed on the one fund included, not paying for rent or lease or other, space issues, right? This one specifically calls out, that they're doing, new flooring, utility sink, facilities, rents, insurance.
Which one?
Number 14.
Dorland.
Yeah. Not problematic because they're so far out of town. I mean, I get that they still serve Temecula, but if that was the standard on that one application, then why wouldn't that be because it's not, we don't have a breakdown of what any of this is going for.
Right.
But, I can see like supplies, marketing, and, that sort of thing to support the folks out there. But but flooring and a sink and insurance and rent, by our earlier decision, I think that kind of precludes that here.
Right.
But I don't see a breakdown of what those, costs are. But I'm assuming flooring, I mean, I've done that myself, and I'm sure we all have, it's not cheap. I'm assuming the bulk of this is flooring, rent, insurance, right? So, if that's the case, I don't want to be disingenuous in our decision-making here at all.
So you're suggesting nixing it? Based on.
Or at least if they could come back with a cost. I mean, I've no issues with supplies, marketing, that sort of thing. But the rest of it, I think, falls outside of what we had sort of established as scope.
So we can exclude that and ensure in the compliance part of the administration of the grant that that's what they spent their money on. If you want to exclude that, we'll make sure that's in the agreement.
Okay.
Does city market for them when they use the MERC especially, because I know it's always on our calendars, that there's going to be an exhibit.
Yeah, I was going to throw this out there, and maybe you were headed that way, but to zero that out and just lean on the MERC for marketing and stuff for them, and then that sort of handles your, issue with, and then compliance issues for making sure that they're using it for those things. That, I'm just, again, throwing it out there.
Yeah, the city does advertise for those.
And I know Dorland does a lot of, I mean, it's a very good organization, but being a new applicant, maybe this is maybe a teachable moment that, this was, these grants were more for things that they're not applying for.
Right.
So.
Is there a prohibition if they apply this year? Can they not apply next year?
No.
They can.
They can?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, then I would say the answer for them
Is
is to
zero?
rely on the city for their marketing for now and then come back next year.
Yeah,
And don't include capital improvements.
right. So are we good to zero that out then?
Yes.
Okay.
There's another 5,000.
That makes your job a little bit easier, Mr. City Manager.
Where were we on first tee, Betsy?
55 now.
Yeah, maybe I could make a suggestion too, Mr. Mayor. If Betsy's, I don't know if she has this list up, but could we just start at the top and maybe just go one item by one item and just see if the full council's like consensus is there, and then if we need to sort of run a running tab on any additions or deletions, we can do that too.
I mean, because that's 66. I did that already, so those were the only ones I had issue with, and questions about. I think maybe we just be efficiently, if other folks have questions about any of the other ones that were funded, then let's start there and see.
And just so I can
But
keep
those were the
track-
only ones that I was concerned about.
So I can keep track, Mr. Mayor, where are we on first tee now?
Well, we zeroed out cause for pause, right?
So we're about 55 away from the target.
Okay.
And honestly, my only question was on the bike Temecula Valley, and that's
Mhm.
already been addressed. So maybe unless Councilmember Alexander has any more, we're kind of there.
Mhm.
So starting from the top, we have $25,000 for first tee. We add 7,500. Actually, we're just going to add, let's see, $25,000 plus 7,500 plus the 5,000 from Door, plus 5,000 plus 9,500. We're at 47,000, and then the 2,500. And so we're at 44,500.
So we're
So
at $5,500.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So-
Any others then?
I'll move this item with those recommended changes, if you're entertaining a motion.
So just to be clear for the record, I want to make sure the council is recommending that you zero out cause for pause, you zero out Doorland, you go ahead and bring Bike Temecula Valley up to 10,000, you go ahead and bring First Tee up to the matching grant, and then any differential, Mr. City Manager, you would be going ahead and making up the difference. I believe that is the motion.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I also want off the subcommittee. That's my motion.
Yeah.
Understood. We have a first by Councilmember Schwank.
Second.
All right, please cast your votes. All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you.
I apologize, Betsy.
Thank you all for coming out this evening for that. Appreciate it. Do good work. Make Temecula proud. All right. Just for clarification, Mr. City Manager Peter, we've moved both items 1 and 2 for number 13.
Yes.
Because we didn't specifically talk about the budget transfer piece.
Do they need to make that part of the motion?
No, I think
It was
the
covered.
motion was the recommended action with those changes that were clarified by the city clerk.
Correct.
So I
Just
think we
making sure
covered
we're
both
good.
of them.
We'll do the budget transfer accordingly.
Thank you.
But the
Okay.
minutes will show a separate action on the birth choice application.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 14. It's receive and file recommended update allocations from Community Reinvestment Program funding at the request of myself and Ms. Edwards. And I believe Kevin.
I'm up. And thanks, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. This item recommends updated allocations from the Community Reinvestment Program, which comes at the request of the Strategic Fiscal Planning Subcommittee, made up of yourself and Councilmember Edwards. Excuse me. Now, although some of this will look a bit familiar, and before we hear from the subcommittee members, I also wanted to briefly remind the council of how we got to this point, keeping in mind that the intent and spirit was to intentionally and in a holistic approach mitigate the significant impacts associated with the pandemic here locally. As background, so last year on October 26th, the City Council approved utilizing the city's full American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, or ARPA, allocation, which was just over $14 million, in 2 equal increments to fund public safety services, thereby making a like amount of general fund dollars available to reinvest in the community and assist in mitigating the negative economic impacts of the global pandemic. This strategy was previously approved by the city's auditors as an allowable option in appropriating the funds. This strategy freed up a like amount in the general fund dollars to be used in an outward-facing community reinvestment strategy. And on February 22nd of this year, a couple of things occurred. During the mid-year budget process, the City Council established the COVID-19 Pandemic Community Reinvestment Program, or CRP, fund to account for various community reinvestment grants to be established by the City Council. Also, staff met with Mayor Ron and Councilmember Edwards to refine the scope of the recommended categories for overall community benefit, impact, and fiscal transparency. At the meeting of March 8th, the City Council approved the following appropriations over the next 2 fiscal years from the Community Reinvestment Fund. The categories were business support, with several subcategories for a total of $3,580,000, nonprofit support for a total of $3 million, homeless services at $1 million, housing assistance at $5.5 million, behavioral health services support at $1 million, higher education workforce development also at $1 million. Last month, staff provided the subcommittee with CR implementation updates and a proposed funding reallocation of Old Town outdoor dining funding, which was discontinued on June 30th of this year. Areas that were previously defined, or low-hanging fruit, if you will, were related to additional financial resources to help support businesses, nonprofits, homeless efforts, housing assistance, and higher ed and workforce development. Now, an area that required a bit more refinement was in the behavioral and mental health space, where unfortunately during the pandemic, we saw an escalation, or maybe more accurately, the widespread acknowledgement of the need for these resources and services, but still faced with continued challenges, especially as it relates to public safety personnel, in meeting the need due to resources, stigmas, etc. These updates are now being shared with the balance of the City Council. The first, business support subcategory, is currently allocated at $1.5 million for Old Town outdoor dining, with a recommendation to reprogram those funds by reallocating $500,000 of that amount for additional and immediate public safety behavioral health support for those who protect and serve Temecula. Also, after distilling a long list of possible options, reprogramming all or a portion of the remaining Old Town outdoor dining funding balance for the following. That would be Old Town parklets, which are small gathering areas which have proven successful in enhancing outdoor family-friendly spaces. Vacant lot beautification, which we heard during the vacant lot workshop of city-owned properties. And the third and very timely item as we enter into the holiday season would be enhancing Old Town holiday lights and decorations, especially with our Winterfest activities, ice rink, and return of Santa's Electric Light Parade to Old Town. Next, and unchanged, is the $500,000 to launch comprehensive wayfinding decorative signage throughout Old Town, including the development of a sign program and construction of decorative signs. These decorative wayfinding signs are intended to help direct visitors to parking, restaurants, businesses, and civic facilities throughout Old Town. We've hired a contractor and currently are in design mode. Now, the next steps will be to complete the design and share the design with the executive staff for feedback, then present the design to the Old Town Steering Subcommittee for feedback and finalization before bringing to the City Council for approval in early 2023. Also allocated is a $500,000 business support campaign to boost the local economy. As proposed by the city's Office of Economic Development, this involves a partnership with the Small Business Development Center, or SBDC, on bringing brick and mortar businesses into the digital world through a program called Main Street Digital. This program provides for online support, that's web development, social media, and online advertisement. And currently, we are partnering with SBDC at the TVE2, and this agreement is actually in process with our legal folks. SBDC is scheduled to release applications in early spring of next year for intake and review. And then recipients must take 4 weeks of training in maximizing Google Analytics, social media, and online advertising. The city will oversee distribution of $10,000 each to 50 Temecula businesses that were established as of March 2020. Coming in at $80,000 is an enhanced effort to support the entrepreneurs and startups of the Temecula Valley in the form of a rent waiver program for businesses at the Temecula Valley Entrepreneurs Exchange, again, the TVE2. In addition to waiving rent at the city's business incubator for a defined period, these funds are also being used by the new TVE2 manager, and a shout out to Mary Cervantes, to attract new tenants by amending leases and working on other outreach strategies. I should also note that the lease waivers are applicable to both existing and future TVE2 tenants. Say that fast 3 times. Also, a bit more refined since the last council update is a proposed TVE2 expansion in spring 2023. Now, a full proposal specific to the expansion will be presented at the next city council meeting, but this current allocation of $520,000 is for an SBDC Entrepreneurial Resource Center, will be known as the ERC, which will be a one-stop shop for all things business assistance. This will also be the first of its kind in Riverside County, assisting business owners at every stage of development from startup to growth, including a full range of specialized business services. Now, more good stuff under business support are the general business support grants for internships and externships, where the overall use of these funds, and that's $160,000 per year over a 3-year period, which will total $480,000, are concentrated on providing Temecula local businesses with support for workforce and staffing needs. For example, CRP funding will allow us to hire an additional 20 to 25 externs per year at a cost of $100,000, and 10 to 15 interns a year at a cost of $60,000. As a reminder, externs are placed with area businesses in the automotive, manufacturing, hospitality, and other sectors, while interns support city operations. So this is very important during these economic times. These programs provide wraparound support to residents seeking employment. I'm also happy to report that the externship program will also extend to the Global Citizens Program to place adults with special needs in paid positions. Under nonprofit support, having just covered this in the previous CS funding business item, these funds will make a significant difference over the next 2 years for many of our wonderful local nonprofits, and I think enough has been said about that. Now, the $1 million in homeless services is divided into $500,000 for infrastructure, primarily fencing, where we have identified the need for security fencing, and that's tubular steel, on the north side of Temecula Creek from Pechanga Parkway to east of Jedediah Smith Road, and on the north side of Temecula Creek along a city-owned parcel west of Pechanga Parkway. And then another $500,000 to expand existing prevention and diversion programming, which will help offset the reduction in CDBG funds. This will also support professional social work outreach through our street-level homeless outreach contract with SWAG. In the category of housing assistance, a total of $5.5 million in housing assistance is to be allocated, which the council approved $4 million already earlier this year for the Vine Creek Affordable Housing Project that will provide for 60 units of affordable and attainable housing with 15 units, next slide, thank you guys, designated for families with special needs. Next slide, please. $1 million in funding designed to attract a future affordable and attainable workforce housing project in Uptown Temecula. And I still believe we're on track for a related RFP in 2023. And then $500,000 in a residential rehab grant program to also be provided through Habitat for Humanity to low and moderate income households to expedite the completion of critical home improvements, including those related to health and safety, ADA, and specific needs for seniors. As discussed earlier, the behavioral health support services is a critically important category where the need continues to be redefined. This funding reflects support for services provided via Temecula Valley Hospital, behavioral health expansion, and direct support to CAL FIRE and RSL. Now, the city will still provide up to a $1 million grant to the Temecula Valley Hospital to assist veterans, first responders, and other at-risk individuals that reside and work in Temecula needing behavioral health services. These funds would seek to cover the gap between insurance coverage and the cost of behavioral health care. The TVH investment would focus on 3 areas of emergency department care, inpatient behavioral health hospital support, and prevention and intervention group programs prior to the opening of the behavioral health hospital in 2024. Now, truly channeling this year's Temecula Safe theme, following powerful testimonials from the Fire Chief Creator and RSO Captain Hall on the need for additional focus, support, and resources for behavioral and mental health services and public safety, the subcommittee concluded that CRP funding would make an immediate and significant impact for those public safety first responders personnel assigned to Temecula. As such, the aforementioned Old Town outdoor dining application would be reduced by $500,000. That's from $1.5 million to $1 million, and the $500,000 reallocated to CAL FIRE and RSO with the nexus to Temecula at $250,000 each to support their direct-to-members mental health resources. This direct and unprecedented support to our fire and law enforcement personnel offers immediate resources for first responders through existing channels, helping to keep Temecula and those who serve and protect here safe. Finally, $1 million in higher education and workforce development aimed at the Temecula campuses of Cal State San Marcos and MSJC for the creation of community and business certificate programs, accelerated degrees, build out a collaborative to support our local business ecosystem, and to equip residents with the education and tools needed to secure quality employment. Currently, under tenant improvements, MSJC anticipates using the funds to implement an electric vehicle technician program and ready in 2023. Excuse me. Cal State San Marcos funds will be applied towards 22,000 square feet of tenant improvements, including classroom space, indoor equipment, and computers needed for programs ready in 2024. Again, any funds for tenant improvements will use prevailing wage. As stated earlier, it is anticipated that a total of just over $14 million in wide-reaching community support grants will be appropriated from the Community Reinvestment Fund over the next 2 fiscal years. This includes reprogramming of the $1.5 million in outdoor dining dollars, with $500,000 allocated to additional and direct behavioral health support of Temecula police and fire personnel. At your discretion, the balance of $1 million will be available to assist in the consideration of Old Town parklets, vacant lot beautification, and enhancing Old Town holiday lights and decoration. The result is a comprehensive, strategic, and transparent outward-facing community reinvestment program. Touching upon most departments, the balance of the team is also available to answer any questions, and that concludes my staff report.
I do.
All right, Mary Ann.
So Kevin, we talked about 20 to 25 externs and 10 to 15 interns. Are we making any, are those adults? Are we working with career tech ed in the high schools? Or, have we made provisions for students?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's going to fall under Charles's shop, which is under Erica, and Erica's voice to actually talk about that.
She's got her hand on the button.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, those programs will be aimed at high school students up through college students and young adults who may be opting for a career technical education pathway in lieu of college.
Great.
It's also going to include training for adults and individuals with special needs as well.
Wonderful. My next question is, if we talked about affordable and attainable housing, and we know that we have some coming in. Could I just have a recap or a thumbnail about who qualifies, because there's so much misinformation. Who qualifies for affordable housing? So does anybody know the income levels?
Yeah,
Sure, Luke Watson does.
Yeah, I think you might be able to help with that. So it's obviously a sliding scale, so it depends on your income and how many people are in the home. So
For example?
let's just, say for example, a family of 4 in Riverside County in the low income category is gonna be in the $65,000 a year range.
So
For
65
low income.
Okay.
For moderate income, it's gonna be much higher. It's gonna be almost $90,000 a year for a family of four.
So family of four, for the low income, $65,000 a year, that is not what people think of when they think of affordable housing. So I just wanted to clarify that. And then, would it be appropriate, I think Chief Crater was so moving in his explanation of how we could help first responders, because I know that they serve each other through a program. They have firefighters that go through special training to help other firefighters. Could you just give us a little brief overview of how that works and how this will help?
Yeah, we have a peer support team here in Riverside County, much like the Sheriff's Department. And we have certain firefighters that want to donate their time and effort because it's typically these things happen very, very quickly, right? And people have to be available. So we send our firefighters to individual and group crisis counseling. Our firefighters also attend suicide prevention classes, advanced peer support, which gives us the tools to basically come beside firefighters and be peers. Currently in Riverside County, we have 16 members on that peer support team for us here as firefighters in Riverside County, and a few of those are in Temecula as well. We also have our chaplain program, and then we have recently added some canine comfort dogs to be able to support firefighters here in Temecula and throughout Riverside County. You can imagine we go on calls that affect us. Most of the reason I brought this up to the city council was we have to get ahead of this and start dealing with it more on a preventative side. So as firefighters continue, or the sheriff department continues to run critical incidents and deal with the worst case scenario in the public, that we arm ourselves with things that we could do to get through those difficult times, whether that is yoga, or taking suicide prevention classes, or actually taking classes that give us some tools to deal with these scenarios. Over the last 5 years, we've seen suicide be the number one, well, not the number one, but line of duty death-wise killers. Our folks are taking their own lives, and that is not necessary. So I think having prevention tools in place and change the culture that it's okay to ask for help and you're not weak because you do so is going to help us. And I see this money as part of that. Actually having the tools available, being able to send our folks to a retreat if they need help, rather than getting 4 counseling sessions, maybe we can get them 15. That's important. So that's why it was brought up to the council, and we thank you guys for your support and looking into this, and you guys truly care for us. We know that we're contracted by you, but we do not feel that way at all. We feel like we're part of the team here and part of the community, and we thank you for this gesture, and it's going to go a long way to help our local firefighters and sheriff's deputies that serve Temecula and keep us healthy and keep us on the front lines. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And RSO expressed a similar need. So I just wanted everybody to get a picture of what that money will go for, and I think it's very worthwhile.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Okay. Have we asked for public comment yet?
We did not on this item. However, we have no public comment on this item.
Okay, then any comments or anything else from council? Stu?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with anything in this, except for I'm feeling really a need to prepare for the impending doom as the recession looms. And I'm hearing stories of rents going up by $1,000 a month for people. And I think I personally would love to see us set aside some of this money. I mean, this money is basically coming out of the general fund. So we're not having a time crunch to basically get rid of it. So I would love to see us look at creating some sort of a fund that will support Community Mission of Hope, Project Touch, all these, and even rent vouchers, you know, but not for us to hand out, those people to hand out. So basically, Community Mission of Hope, people come to them, we're getting ready to get kicked out of our house. You know, we need a voucher or the money to pay the next month's rent. So that's what I'm kind of leaning towards. I'd love to see us look into the future a little bit with some very serious issues that a lot of our citizens, you know, people who live, you know, this is all going for our citizens, but I'm feeling like it's going to get ugly, and I would love to be able to help our citizens be able to stay in their home, prevent homelessness, not deal with it after the fact. Let's try to keep them off the street, and so that's my opinion and thought. So,
okay. Anyone else?
If I can share that, you know, hearing that from Stu, I absolutely agree with that. It's kind of like leaving that slush fund in case something happens. As much as I want to beautify Temecula, for me, I look at the parklets and I see possibilities of homelessness, people just sleeping out on the benches, which is a concern of mine. But I really do have to say, Stu, that I like your idea. Our citizens are going to need something later on, and we might not be able to have that magic ball to read what it is, but I think we can have the wisdom to look and say there could be a possibility of a situation coming down the line where people are going to be in need, and why not be able to utilize that money for what it's meant for, and that's for our residents. So I want to second that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm more of a glass half full kind of guy, and I don't necessarily think that that's going to happen, but maybe it does. I really want to commend staff and the subcommittee for going through this. I think the last two items really show, you know, who we are as a community and what we value. I would encourage us to actually fund the parklets. I don't think removing things from the built environment is going to mitigate homelessness. I mean, I think we have a team that does a great job doing that. Adding spaces for families to eat lunch and to hang out and relax in Old Town is important. It's part of a vibrant downtown core that we have. Certainly going to add to it. I did have a question on the timeline, and is there a time frame for which we have to expend these funds, or is there not?
No, there's not.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure, and I just really wanted clarification. So, I mean, I'm fine with the item as presented, and with that continued investment in Old Town. I do think one thing that I've seen some other cities do a really good job of is they have like the business have like a concierge almost, where folks can ask questions, and they pick up trash, and they make sure the sidewalks are clean after a Friday night. Things get picked up. So those are all things that are important to maintain the family-friendly environment we have in Old Town.
All right. Well, let me add in here a couple of thoughts. One is I agree. I think there's always value in preparing for the future, but I think we can build that into what we're doing here tonight. I don't think we need to necessarily sacrifice some of the programs and things we've talked about, because don't forget, part of that reinvestment in Old Town is meant for attracting more business, the economic, I mean, every dollar we as a city have invested, including City Hall into Old Town, has brought in literally hundreds of millions of dollars in reinvestment into this community, and the economic sort of stability that we've come to appreciate. So the more that we can help provide that kind of resilience, I think, I would hate to just sort of pull from there to do this, because I just don't think that's a wise choice. But preparing for the future, one of the thoughts I have is, look, the grant allocations that we've just discussed this evening, we still have $1 million left in that fund for next year. So, and we'll have, several more months under our belt by the time we start contemplating this, to think, and maybe we push off the next, grant cycle a little bit more to get a little bit of certainty of where the economy is going, because then if you need to pivot, and again, those same organizations, look, we have tried and helped Community Mission of Hope and say, all these programs in the city, but we've typically done it with, $5,000, contributions and limited CDBG funds in many cases. What we did here tonight for a lot of these same organizations who provide those same types of services that'll become critical during, if a recession does occur, we're doing $50,000, minimums. So I would say that there's an opportunity for us to kind of, put a pause on next year's cycle, maybe take a look and see what happens. And if we do need to, reallocate funds or think a little bit differently about that as the economy changes, then we still have that buffer built in to that. And it's still at a level that we've never had before, because, during the last recession, the city wasn't there providing that level of economic subsidy to homeowners or short sales or foreclosures or rental assistance or anything else. This was kind of a unique circumstance that we have ourselves, we set ourselves in front of. And so, I'd say take advantage of the opportunity to hit the pause button a little bit on this, see where we go in the next, 6 to 12 months on that. And since there's no rush in this, then maybe we use that as that buffer opportunity. And certainly not all, and I'm looking to Pat and Luke and others here, certainly not all the projects that are contemplated are going to be done in 12 months that have just been allocated. These things take some time. So, as we start, that's been I think the beauty of Temecula, is that we have pivoted very quickly and efficiently over the years when circumstances have changed. And so we've proven that before. I think we can prove it again. So it's not like we're writing a check for $14 million here tonight and it all just disappears, right? As circumstances change, if they do, or if they don't, then I think we're fully capable of being able to respond.
So is this a receive and file?
Let me see here. Yeah, it's just basically an update to where we are, receive and file.
It's a receive and file pending any additional.
But I think the input is good for staff to hear, because it kind of gives you a sense of where the council's thinking on this. It's an update to what was being proposed, slight shift of where the funds are. But certainly, I think you heard the message here is that, as things emerge over the next, 6 to 12 months, we're cognizant of that.
So just so I'm clear, the $1 million that's left over from the Old Town dining, hold that for now in abeyance, or at least begin considering what a emergency shelter type program might look like. Is that the direction we're getting, or are we're just parking that $1 million for now? And
no, I don't think we park anything. I think we move as the $1 million I was referring to is in the existing grant programs that we've provided, right? So we provided those for the nonprofit organizations in town. These are the same nonprofits that are going to be helping, in the event of an economic downturn, and many of them are anyway. And so I'm looking at Habitat and others that have, some remarkable programs. Certainly that $1 million, my suggestion is just to kind of maybe pause a little bit on the next allocation of the grant funding cycle. But, everything sort of proceed ahead as planned,
So let me try one more time, because I'm still not connecting the dots.
Okay.
So you just allocated $1.1 million to nonprofits for this fiscal year. Next year, we'll have a like amount that's built into that total $14 million for nonprofits, and we'll go through the similar exercise. But what we still have hanging out there after all that we just showed everyone is $1 million, correct? And if there is any direction we can get tonight for that, or not, but that's what I'm trying to articulate, is there's still $1 million hanging out there for this fiscal year.
Well, and I think that, I mean, maybe everybody's got a different opinion, but I thought we were still moving forward with the plan for Old Town. At least you gave us 3 categories of potential investment in Old Town.
It's completely discretionary at this point. I know the subcommittee, weighed in on that and the parklets and the different things. So just whatever consensus the council comes to, we'll execute accordingly.
I think he's trying to figure out which of the 3 we want to kind of maybe move towards.
Well, I thought we were leaving that up to the staff's discretion.
That was up to us. That's what we're here to do, receive and file.
Well,
Just to get an idea about where the staff can move forward at is what they're looking for.
We could expend $1 million on parklets, easy.
Right.
If those were 3 candidate type projects, Old Town lighting, was probably like a $7,500, $10,000 expenditure, maybe for this fiscal year. If you look at the beautification of vacant land, that could go from $50K to $500K, and maybe it's site specific. But it wasn't designed to sort of be all 3, or maybe it is all 3, or if the council just wants to focus on one specific thing, then we'll take that direction too.
Zach?
Well, I kind of feel like it can be all 3. I mean, if we're certainly would want to enhance the lighting and the holiday spirit in Old Town, and that seems like a pretty minimal expenditure. And then maybe, we certainly wouldn't want to come into Old Town with 50 parklets. I mean, maybe we start with a few, and then we look at some of the vacant lots that we have. And then on the top of my head, if I'm thinking the vacant lots in front of here, or maybe there's others, but I think we just kind of leave it up to staff discretion and then take it back to the subcommittee if anything sort of drastically changes. But I feel like we could do a few parklets, we could do some beautification, and then, adding holiday lights, although it's very festive down there right now, so.
And staff comes back with specifics on, which of the 3 things they want to work on at any given time? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I think there's flexibility in it. I don't really think at least I didn't come into this thinking we had to say we were going to spend X number of dollars on parklets and we were going to spend X number of dollars on cleaning up vacant lots and then here's an invoice for lighting in Old Town. I just felt like the general aesthetic of Old Town would improve with all of those, and why would we not want to improve Old Town?
Well, what if of what I'm hearing from the city manager is the fact that the parklets could easily cost $1 million. And do we have a picture of the parklets by any chance?
No, not tonight.
Okay, so I'm just going to give you kind of my 2 cents on it. I think you and I, Zach, sat in a meeting with the parklets. I'll tell you, I love the idea, yes, that families can sit down and eat and have lunch, that's amazing. But when I looked at them, they were like benches. They were these like box benches, and what I can foresee is not that it's going to bring in homeless, but the fact we already have issues that, they may be sprawling out on balconies or things like that where they have to be removed. It's just another area for them to lay down in the evening. And that's what my concern is. Not that it's going to bring more homeless in, but it's going to bring more issues in at night. Then when the businesses open up in the morning, they have to deal with these homeless people laying outside in these parklets. So that's what I foresee as an issue. Not that it's going to bring more homeless people. But if we're going to move ahead, just my suggestion, then again, with everybody, the holiday lights, everybody seems to really want to be able to bring in the festivities. Like you said, Zach, let's bring in some more stuff to Old Town. Let's beautify it, and then let's add some vacant lots if that's what we need to do. Those would be my 2 suggestions. It's going to further our city and what we're looking for, further Old Town, and just be able to beautify some of the areas that are just weeds and.
I'm going to give Mr. Hawkins a second here, but I just wanted to chime in and say, I know we don't have any photographs of parklets, but I think there's some confusion about what those mean and what they look like, and we're not intentionally building an attractive nuisance in Old Town. Right. We also have a metro team, and we also have the core team and others that deal with all of that. So, regardless of whether or not we have parklets, I don't think that's going to influence the homeless situation. I just think the confusion of what the parklets are, and that's, again, multiple designs. Cities have done, all sorts of different versions of these, and the designs can actually discourage laying about and doing all of those things as well. So I think that's one of those items that probably Luke, is that going to be your shop, or Pat?
Yeah.
That brings those designs forward. There's going to be a subcommittee that looks at that.
That
to
was
begin
us.
with,
That's why I'm
and-
saying I
and-
was in that subcommittee.
Yeah.
So I've already seen
So-
the design of those, and the design that I've seen already, I don't like. That's
Okay.
why I'm
and,
saying
and
that,
that's
you know,
fine. But
so.
but I think we can review those designs to make sure there's plenty of options that can be brought forward that avoid the issues. Because
Right.
if all we're worried about is that, I mean,
Right.
we could worry about that for just about anything we do in enhancing Old Town or other open space or anything else. So my sense is, let them come forward with designs that are appropriate for Temecula, help enhance the character and the look and feel of Old Town, improve economic, opportunities, because that's really the goal there. It's not, just sitting about space. It's supposed to be an economic investment in Old Town. So, Mr. Hawkins.
Yeah, I'm sorry, and I know Luke can comment. I didn't want to park on the parklets, but there are different designs. I mean, they're not just fixed or stationary designs. I mean, they're designed by the city. They're constructed. They can be taken up and moved and put up for the night. So it isn't kind of just this fixed asset, if you will, too. But that goes into design. But what I actually wanted to do was circle back, just so that we're clear. Mr. Mayor, and I think you indicated that there was consensus and heard from Councilmember Stewart as well as Alexander, but that there was concurrence on what has been presented, just in terms of options with the discretionary funds, in terms of reviewing vacant lots, parklets, and really the most immediate on that would be the holiday lighting, just to hit this holiday cycle, right? So that's that. But given the concerns that were expressed, what's possibly out there, and just in terms of the, incoming tsunami possibly of some of the housing issues as well, that, Mr. Mayor, I think you had indicated that in the second round of CS funding next year, that we will kind of watch and monitor what the economic conditions are. And if a decision needed to be made, we would have that $1 million at our disposal or discretion in order to apply towards what has been discussed. And if not, then we can actually build upon the current allocations that are provided through the CS funding. And just for clarification, wanted to make sure that we understood that correctly.
That's how I understand it.
Okay.
I do have a question.
Stu?
So basically, this is the $14 million is what we're talking about. And so if the funding isn't being spent tomorrow, it's going out in probably waves, I'm guessing, to where, it's going to be dished out, for lack of a better term. And so at any point, could we actually undish it? Just say, hey, okay, we were gonna go for, $1.5 million for this issue, but we're seeing some signs that we need to scale that back. Can we pull 500 back? I mean, is that something within our purview, City Manager?
I think I understand what you're asking, and pretty much everything that Mr. Hawkins showed you, with the exception of next year's nonprofit funding, the council's weighed in on. You've made it clear. We're going to execute those contracts. We're going to cut those checks. We're going to get that money out.
Okay.
It's gone.
All right.
And what we have available to us is $7 million this fiscal year, and we have $7 million coming in next fiscal year.
Yeah.
It's over 2 fiscal years. What we have available to us, though, under this scenario, I think is what the mayor's calling the $1.1 million next year that is earmarked for nonprofits, is not pledged. It's not going out. We will sit on that $1.1 million. We can evaluate the economy. We can evaluate what, if anything happens in terms of a recession. That $1.1 million could be considered for nonprofit funding if things are going relatively good, or that $1.1 million if things have gone in the tank and the council wants to reprogram that for emergency shelter grants. You would have that discretion. That money is going to sit there until such time as the council appropriates it.
But
Does that make sense?
I would urge a little bit of caution because we certainly don't, so let's go to the behavioral health piece, you know, to accelerate funding to the hospital to develop their behavioral health center. It's not something that, you know, halfway in, we're going to call up the hospital and say, oh, never mind, sorry, because that's an abandoned investment. Same for MSJC or Cal State, you know, they're $250,000 into their retrofits of building, you know, a new nursing college, and then we say, no, just kidding. You know,
we're not going to renege.
Right?
If the council votes on that tonight,
right.
we will enter into those agreements with Temecula Valley Hospital, the city of Temecula. Checks will be cut, and those dollars will go out, and they'll no longer be available to us.
And I don't want to diminish because, you know, a lot of those investments were based off of the impacts and the things we saw post-COVID that we're still trying to deal with. And I go back to behavioral health as one of those that's critically important for our first responders, our nurses, doctors, teachers, others that, you know, have, you know, had to deal with some serious issues here. So, you know, pulling back those funds in lieu of, you know, a potential recession or something, that problem still exists today, right? So I you know, so I just put a little bit of caution and say, we've got some flexibility with some funds next year, but for the most part, you know, I think we spent a lot of time trying to figure out where these funds need to go today to solve the problems of the last 2 years, and this was our best, you know, use of those funds.
Okay.
All right.
That's it.
That's it. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. And then moving on to item number 15, approved quality of life master plan at a request of myself and Councilmember Edwards. And we have Mr. Peters here to start with a staff report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members and staff. This is the Quality of Life Master Plan, or QLMP, update. I'm Matt Peters with the Planning Department, and I'd like to introduce Doug Svensson, our consultant with Applied Development Economics, help the city out on this effort. The agenda for tonight is to describe the QLMP update and how it's used by the city, talk about our public input and our community engagement efforts, go over the draft vision statement, and then I'll turn it over to Doug, who will talk about the major themes that came out of our effort and the Citizens 20-Year Priorities timeline. And then we'll introduce the Blue Ribbon Committee and give them a chance to comment if they wish as to their experience serving on the Blue Ribbon Committee. So what is the QLMP? It is a broad-level visionary document. It identifies the city's core values, which make up quality of life, and it's used in the city's budgeting process. So what that means for staff is projects or programs in the annual operating budget and the capital improvements projects must be justified in terms of how it helps to achieve the goals and objectives in each core value. So the core values include, starting at the top and then going around the clock, a safe and prepared community, transportation, mobility, and connectivity, healthy and livable city, economic prosperity, sustainable and resilient city, accountable and responsive city government, and equity. Equity is a new core value introduced with this update. The direction for that came from a city council resolution passed on July 14th, 2020, and it's often referred to as the city's READY initiative, or the Race, Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Initiative, and that include three goals. The first being establish a READY Commission, second, diversity training for city staff, and third, incorporate the equity core value into the QLMP. So the equity core value added the new core value with 4 goals. Those include fair and equitable treatment of all human beings, foster a healthy environment and prosperous opportunities, extensive communication and outreach, and dedication of resources. And staff and the consultant, we met with the READY Commission twice to develop the core value and the indicators, and then we devoted an entire Blue Ribbon Committee meeting to the equity discussion. This graphic is representing the fact that the Quality of Life Master Plan is part of a much bigger effort. So at the top, you see 4 different phases. That's our plan for the general plan update. Phase 1 shows some projects that have been crossed off the list, others are in progress. But phase 1 is essentially complete. Phase 2, the major work task in phase 2 is the Quality of Life Master Plan, which we're here tonight. And the Quality of Life Master Plan is going to serve as the foundation for the general plan update. So this public outreach and this effort will then serve as the foundation for the general plan update, and then all of the required elements in a general plan, those will be organized underneath the core values. Phase 3 will kick off probably midsummer into fall with an RFP to hire a consultant for the general plan update, and then phase 4 will be the general plan update and an environmental impact report. As for community engagement with this effort, it all started off with a survey. That survey is referred to as the True North Community Survey. That was a statistically valid survey with an overall margin of error plus or minus 3.2%. And essentially it was the city's report card or the community's report card to us on programs, facilities, traffic, economic development, and parks and recreation. And resident satisfaction is high as a result of the survey, and city government is viewed positively. Some areas that were identified in the survey included traffic, residential growth, homelessness, and city resident communication. And all of this was presented to the Blue Ribbon Committee at various meetings for their consideration as part of the QLMP update process. I've mentioned Blue Ribbon Committee a few different times. The BRC, so on April 19, 2021, the City Council appointed a Blue Ribbon Committee to assist with the update to the Quality of Life Master Plan. And that group included a diverse group of stakeholders representing a variety of interests. And it started with the General Plan Update Subcommittee, which consisted of Mayor Ron and Councilmember Edwards. And then it consisted of representatives from each of the commissions and the one board we have. So it included Commissioner Maddox from the Public Traffic Safety Commission, Commissioner Sizemore from the Community Services Commission, Commissioner Turley Trejo from Planning Commission, Commissioner Faulkner from the Ready Commission, and Board Member Jackson from the Old Town Local Review Board. In addition, the community representatives, and several of them are here tonight, so I'm going to go through the list just to acknowledge them and all of the work that they put in all of the meetings. So those members included Aaron Petroff from the Social Work Action Group, Amy Manier representing the Special Needs Community, Brooke Nunn from the Chamber of Commerce, Carl Love, a local historian, Darlene Wetton from the Temecula Valley Hospital, Gary Oddie from the Bike Temecula Valley Coalition, also a Community Services Commissioner, Jacob Mejia from Pechanga, Jeremy Brown from MSJC, Juan Carlos Duran from Optiforms, a local business, Karen Valdez from the Temecula Valley Unified School District, Kimberly Adams from Visit Temecula Valley, Sandy Rosenstein from the Interfaith Council, Chad Pelikai from Camp Pendleton, Scott Treadway, Rancho Christian Schools, Tammy Marine from Habitat for Humanity, and finally Terry Bencardi from the Sierra Club. So with regard to the Blue Ribbon Committee and all of our meetings, basically we had 2 city council workshops. We had 2 virtual workshops that were online. And then if you take a look at the bottom, I won't go through all of them, but essentially we had 23 total public meetings. All of them were publicly noticed, and then 4 public workshops associated with just this effort. In addition to those publicly noticed meetings, we had 4 pop-up events. Those were held on Saturday mornings. I attended all of those, and they included a Saturday farmers market in Old Town. We were then at the Somers Bend Sports Park opening. We were at the special games at Great Oak High School, and then we attended Culture Fest in Old Town and received a lot of feedback at all of those various events from local citizens. I mentioned the True North survey. We also did a second survey, which was the Quality of Life Master Plan survey. That was more specific to the core values and the goals and objectives. We asked some very specific questions about the Quality of Life Master Plan. And through that survey, we received over 800 responses. What we noticed when the surveys came back, though, was we were missing a high number of responses from the 14 to 24 age cohort. So we went out and we did a third survey specific to the youth and young adults. And we also had a roundtable discussion that was hosted by the Youth Advisory Committee out at Ronald Reagan Sports Park. And then that survey that was very specific, we shared that with the DEI coordinator at TVUSD, and they pushed that survey out to all of the student organizations. So that helped supplement the other two surveys. As far as branding and social media, we did 16 total posts across the 3 major socials, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and these statistics came from our social media department. And through those 16 total posts, we had 473 likes, 41 comments, 82 shares, and nearly 50,000 impressions. And I'm told those statistics are impressive. In addition to that, before all of the council meetings, while we were going through this process, we advertised on Channel 3. We were also on the homepage for the city's website, and then we were also on the homepage or the landing page for the city app. So anytime you went to anything City of Temecula related, the Quality of Life Master Plan was always right there on the front page. That took you to our dedicated website. So if you went to temeculaca.gov/QLMP, you could take a look at the original QLMP document. All of the meetings, the BRC meetings, were recorded so you could watch them if you couldn't attend. The community survey results are on there. There was also a feedback button. So anytime throughout the process, you could send us an email, and then you could sign up for email notifications as well. Other outreach that we did, we had put together some flyers, and those included links to the QLMP website and then also the survey, and we handed those out to our affordable housing complex managers, various nonprofit organizations, the Mary Phillips Senior Center, and then several different coffee shops. So if you went in and this was hanging on the board at the entrance, you could put your phone up, scan the QR code, and you could go right to the website, fill out the survey. We also handed out business cards to the city council members to hand out to constituents. And then paper surveys were always made available upon request. And if all of that wasn't enough for our public outreach, we advertised on the Auto Mall sign, which has 166,000 cars per day, and that was on a 30-second rotation with other advertisers. So that was our public outreach. As for the draft vision statement included in the Quality of Life Master Plan, we received a lot of input from the BRC members, which focused on the themes of innovation, family, home, and small-town character. And then we also looked for a foundation for the vision statement. We looked at our city seal, which has the logo or saying of old traditions, new opportunities. The idea of you never regret doing it right the first time, and then finally something we call the Temecula way. And using all of that input, we came up with a draft vision statement, and I'll just read it here. It is, with a deep understanding of our history, the city of Temecula is a community and culture on the move. We are dedicated to family, community, economic prosperity, education, health, and safety. Focused on doing it right the first time, we continue to pursue the highest quality of life for all, something we call the Temecula way. So with that, I will turn it over to Doug Svensson, and he'll talk about the themes in the 2040 QLMP update. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Mayor Ron, members of council, staff, it's a pleasure to be here this evening. There are a number of important themes that are reflected throughout the QLMP, and I'd like to briefly review those with you and show how the document intersperses goals and objectives throughout all the core values to reinforce some of these key themes. The first of these is safety. This is the number one positive attribute that citizens appreciate about Temecula. And it's a strong goal in the document to continue to be one of the safest cities in California and the nation, and to ensure that resources are available to that end. Also, supporting community-oriented policing and maximizing community leadership in public safety. In addition to that, there's a very strong focus on emergency response management and planning. And so the strategic objective of creating an emergency response master plan, and also increasing citizen training so that through a variety of programs that the city already does, to make sure that when emergencies happen, citizens have the tools and training to step in and work with the city to resolve those issues. Also, there's a number of specific projects that are associated with building up the capabilities of the fire department. Economic prosperity is a major element of the document, and particularly creating local jobs for local residents. To that end, the Blue Ribbon Committee discussed at length the idea of expanding the career technical education program and creating a center that combines curricula from the Temecula Valley Unified School District as well as MSJC and CSU San Marcos, so that programs for young people in the community lead them to careers for jobs that exist here in Temecula. Beyond that, the strategy includes economic diversification, supporting retail, and supporting small and locally owned businesses. Major part of the feedback that we got through the citizen input is that people associate the small town character that they appreciate about Temecula with the number of locally owned businesses here in the community. Economic prosperity is supported also through the transportation, mobility, and connectivity core value in promoting job growth here locally to reduce commuting, and in the equity core value. Along those same lines, there are a lot of focus, as Matt mentioned, with the BRC on youth opportunities. So there are a number of strategic objectives and goals related to increasing recreational facilities and programs, other programs for young people. The CTE enhancement is directly focused on that. And also in the equity core value, there's an added emphasis on the internship programs that were discussed earlier this evening to get more young people involved in youth and government as well as in the business community. Resiliency has been built into this document in a major way. It's been added to the sustainable city core value, and also developed as an idea throughout several of the other core values in terms of creating resiliency, not only in infrastructure, but also in the economy and around hazard mitigation. This is reinforced through the transportation and connectivity core value, increasing mobility options, and in the accountable and responsible city government core value in terms of maintaining a flexible organization. So as unexpected occurrences happen, the city's in a position to respond quickly. The environment is also emphasized in the document. A goal's been added to create a climate action plan as part of the general plan update, but also a number of other planning efforts, such as the stormwater management plan, green waste standards, greenway planning, integrated watershed management plan have been identified. A key element of this, which also came through the Blue Ribbon Committee discussion, is increasing public education on all these issues so that local residents are able to work with the city to advance environmental quality. And again, these are reinforced through transportation and healthy and livable cities, as well as economic prosperity core values. A number of these issues require a regional approach. So in particular, transportation, initiating a regional transportation discussion with both Riverside and San Diego counties. I understand that's already underway. But also in terms of environmental quality, looking at interjurisdictional efforts around stormwater and watershed management. City of Temecula is very forward-looking, and so there's a lot of focus on using technology to improve service delivery, including paperless technology, installing smart city technology, and building out the city's fiber optic network. So these are built not only in the accountable and responsive city government, but through other core values, particularly transportation. And then finally, housing was a major discussion throughout the process. And the city is focused on the concept of attainable housing, which is affordable to people who work here in Temecula at all different income levels. So that's been reinforced not only in the economic prosperity core value, but healthy and livable city and equity as well. Pulling all this together, the document has updated the 20-year priority timeline. This is a whole series of projects that range from pickleball courts to major transportation infrastructure improvements. It includes mostly public projects, but also some private projects, such as the expansion of the Temecula Valley Hospital. In the short term, the city is focused on updating the general plan and the emergency response master plan, those sorts of planning efforts. Over the longer term, other projects such as a performing arts center and a new aquatic center are also included. So there's a wide range of objectives here. They all reinforce the basic goals and strategic objectives throughout the core values. So with that, I'll have Matt finish our presentation. We look forward to your comments and questions. Thank you very much.
So we took the final draft to all of the commissions. We went to Public Traffic Safety in August, and then Community Services on October 10th, the Ready Commission on the 13th, and then finally Planning Commission. All of their comments were summarized, included in the staff report, and we think that their comments, the majority of their comments have been integrated into the document. And what I'd like to do is, at this time, if you wish, we could introduce the Blue Ribbon Committee and see if they have any comments about their experience working on this project.
Yeah, that'd be great. If what members from the Blue Ribbon Committee want to step forward, provide any comments, now's your chance. Appreciate you coming out here tonight and bearing with us. Who wants to go first? All right, Gary.
Good evening. Thanks for having me, Mayor and council members. Wanted to just give a big thanks to Matt Peters from Luke Watson's department. The way this committee was run was just very special, very positive, very inclusive. I was honored to represent the niche of active transportation. And then the only last comment I will make is that it's a 20-year plan, but when you look at the last QLMP, we got a lot of those things done in 10 years, what we had planned out for 20. And I'd like to just end on that positive note that I believe if we have the will, we can get a lot of these things done a lot faster than we expect. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Faulkner, good evening.
Sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. First of all, I always like to encourage staff. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. And City Council, amazing leadership. But I would like to echo what Gary said. What an amazing job by Matt and Doug. They did an amazing job pulling this together, the BRC. It was very interesting for me to learn the process, to see how the sausage is made behind the scenes and be a part of the BRC. And I have my input be directly instituted within the document itself. There was great discussion. There was not always agreement, but there was a lot of respect in the room in regards to listening to each other's point of view. And we may not still all just agree. The fact of the matter is, I think it's a solid document. I think the equity statement in the document really says a lot. You know, I'm a Navy guy, and we were held accountable to an equity, diversity, and inclusion statement, and we held our people accountable that did not meet that and stepped outside the boundaries of that. So I think it's a great addition to this document, and I think it's a solid way forward for the leaders, the city council, and the staff to really work towards making sure that citizens of Temecula have the ability to take advantage of all resources and safe, particularly with the 6 core values that were there, and adding the equity value to really just pull it all together to continue to march forward. So great process, great leadership from Matt and Doug. They did a great job of herding the cattle to make sure we provided good insight. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Good evening, Lene.
He's pretty tall. Look at that. It was an honor to be on this committee, honestly, to see it kind of progress and be at this point tonight and be able to present this to the city council. And I just would echo what my colleagues have said tonight, and we're the 3 last men standing, apparently. It was a big group, but it was great to have all of the different perspectives and viewpoints in that committee and who we heard from. And we were the last commission that this was presented to, and so we brought a suggestion forward at that commission that might put a little cog in the works, but kind of like to do that. And so this was, we thought about the word equity, and when the Ready Commission was established, I was here when it was established. I was in the meeting, and I think one of the reasons it was established was to provide for those who are underserved. And I know Mike Nagar talked specifically about veterans and special needs. And so having that in mind, our suggestion from the Planning Commission was that the word equity be changed to advocacy, that we advocate for those that are underserved. And that is a word that is more palatable, I think, in our environment right now, but also, we're thinking about 20 years, like what a responsibility, right? And I think as we add this core value, that's a big deal. You're adding a core value to 6 that we've already had in the last 20 years. So I just want to really present that as a strong possibility, because really nothing else has to be changed in that. It's just a word that means something different. And, some of you know that I'm an American Sign Language interpreter. That's one of my jobs. And I consider myself an advocate for the deaf and hard of hearing community. That's what I am. And so that's, in that flavor, that's what I feel like we're doing. We want to advocate for people that are underserved. That's what we're actually doing. And so that, to me, is an action word. And I think it's really important to think about this tonight as you're making a decision, not thinking that, oh, we got to change the whole thing because they've put so much work into this. I'm not saying that. But I do believe that this word is important and that this change will give a different feel to this document for the next 20 years. So thank you for your time.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm actually here on behalf of Tammy Marine. She's teaching a class tonight at MSJC, so she could not make it, but she did write a letter for you guys. Dear Mayor Ron, council members, and city staff, I wanted to thank you for giving voice to Blue Ribbon Committee, a diverse group of experienced community leaders who have been vested in this community for many years. It was truly an honor to serve. Regarding our discussions, both housing and resiliency were recurring themes, and I was delighted to see them both represented in the plan. Discussions on the importance of our faith centers and nonprofits were key, since we know these entities provide services that support our residents. I was also impressed with the group's desire to ensure all citizens feel a part of this community and have access to the many services provided by the city. The Blue Ribbon Committee process validated to me that it is possible to come to the table with different viewpoints, yet respectfully work together to find common ground. Special nod to Matt Peters, who did a wonderful job in organizing us. Thank you for your continued support and the outstanding quality of life that has defined the city for decades. Best regards, Tammy Marine, CEO of Habitat for Humanity, Inland Valley.
Thank you. All right, I think that's everyone. Mr. Peters.
With all of that, staff would recommend that the City Council approve in substantial form the Quality of Life Master Plan Update 2040. And myself and Doug Svensson are available for questions.
All right. Let's start with questions. Any questions from folks down? Ms. Alexander?
First one. Excuse my ignorance on this part. This is a good thing, though. One of the things that's interesting, I just went to a workshop this morning in Riverside, and it was called CORP, which is the cost of poverty. It was very interesting because one of the things that I had learned during this workshop for a couple hours is really taking a look at poverty and transportation. And I know obviously I have the expert here on transportation sitting next to me, but I'm just curious to find out, what does it look like as I'm looking here under 2025 to 2030? It says establish a transportation task force to address regional circulation needs. To what I understood when the gentleman was talking, that sounds more like a regional concept as to where we are going to be able to try to connect with areas outside of San Diego, like San Diego and other areas, to be able to get commuters. Is that correct, first off? And I'm going to have a second question after that, so I'm not done yet.
So the regional task force is, the city of Temecula has a circulation element, and there are only so many more roads that can be widened or bridges that can be built to build out our network. So to help take a look at our traffic issues, we need to look beyond and work with Riverside County, San Diego County, and the neighboring cities.
Wonderful. So I guess this can actually lead into my next question is, what do we have prepared right now for our citizens who, as we see gas prices moving up by, it feels like the dollar, we're almost hitting $6, $7 a gallon. What do we have for the people who are living in the poverty line, or who do not have the economic ability to have a car or to have gas to be able to get to resources within our cities? Is there something that we are preparing for in the next 10 to 20 years to be able to support the individuals who are in need for transportation?
I think there's a few things we're trying to do. That would include building out our trail network so that if people can't afford a vehicle, they can at least walk or ride a bike on the trails. Same with our bike lanes in the streets. And then there is public transit that's available. It's certainly not as robust as some would prefer, but that is an option for people to move throughout the city.
And you just led to my next thing, which was wonderful. So is it something, and City Manager, maybe you can add into this as well, is bikes are great, but what happens to those people who have disabilities, who have kids and can't stick 5 kids on a bike?
Right.
Is it something that we're going to keep our minds and our eyes open to be able to have more public transportation for our families and individuals to get back and forth from work a little quicker? Me coming from the city in New York, I know transportation really well. My question is I know it can be a little slower here because the need isn't as great. Mm-hmm. But is that something we're looking to the future for, to ensure that we have that ability to bring that into the city for our families who are in need of that kind of transportation?
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. And I think the Quality of Life Master Plan summarizes that overall goal. And then when we get into the update of the general plan and we work on our circulation element more specifically, those are some things that we can really try to address as part of that update.
Okay, so that is something, though, that we can visually see with increasing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think I can give you a practical example of how that's already playing out in the city now. It wasn't that long ago where we identified a need to move seniors from the senior center to Walmart or on an excursion. And so we invested in what we call the Silver Shuttle, and it's a clean fuel, bus, and it's in operation, and it's moving seniors through and about the city of Temecula. So, I mean, I think that's just one example, but something that was on the forefront, something that's documented, something that we need to be mindful of as things change, demographics change, and people are in need.
Absolutely.
I think I have a couple other examples too that if you don't mind, I could.
Please, yeah, no, that's
so, one is the ADA transition plan that we put together a number of years ago, which is ongoing. We'll make all kinds of ADA improvements all over the city in the public right-of-way. That's ongoing. We've been using CDBG funds to do that for a number of years now. And the second thing is, and which is probably more impactful, is that in CEQA, all new projects that come on that have a traffic impact will be required to mitigate their vehicle miles traveled. And without getting into the details of what VMT is, that just means that they'll need to provide mitigation that is typically not associated with the automobile, so public transit, biking, alternative forms of transportation, shuttles, you name it, whatever we can come up with, they'll be required to provide financial mitigation for those things moving forward, so we can build out our public transportation infrastructure here in the city.
Okay. No, thank you, and I appreciate that, because obviously if there's going to be more lower income housing that's coming in, there's going to be more of a need for these individuals to get to their resources. And that's, I think, what I learned at this workshop, is the ability for people to get to different areas to get the assistance that they need, CMA, Community Mission of Hope in different areas. So, okay, thank you. That's for right now.
All right, any other? Okay. All right. Do we have any public comments this evening? None? Okay, did I ask that already? I don't think so. All right, good. Okay, well then, no more questions, then thank you. And let's see what the comments are from the council. Ms. Edwards, do you want to go first?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, it was an honor to serve on this committee and work with our community representatives on the Blue Ribbon Committee. And they were very thoughtful, and we had some very energetic discussions, let's put it that way. And I'm very proud of how staff reached out to all the various groups within the city of Temecula, different age groups, and we probably, of all the things the city has done, and we've done surveys before, this has been the most comprehensive by far. And so I'm very proud of that. And we heard from individuals in all the categories that received the survey or participated. But I want to address something that Lene said, because this was a topic of conversation during the meeting. And it was about the equity word and the advocacy word. So, and they're two completely different things. Equity is the quality of being fair and impartial. Equity is where everything is spread against, across the whole city, the diversity of the city, regardless of anything. So the quality of being fair and impartial. Advocacy is an action. Oh yeah, equity is a goal. Equity is a goal. Advocacy is exactly opposite of being fair and impartial. Advocacy is taking action on behalf of a group or a cause, or typically we think of it as legislation. So they're exactly opposite. If you're an advocate, and we are an advocate for the city of Temecula, we are an advocate for all residents without breaking them out into different groups. And we try to be fair and impartial, because that's what equity is. But advocacy is, and that's fine. You can be an advocate, but when it comes to an entire city, we have to be an advocate for the entire city. We can't be an advocate for different groups. So I wanted to kind of clear that up, and that was an item of discussion, much discussion, in fact. So equity is as we defined it. We defined it, actually. Equity in Temecula might mean something different than equity in a different city, but we placed the definition on how we were going to provide equity as a goal. And everyone agreed on that statement. So I think it worked out okay, but equity and advocacy are like opposite things, in my understanding anyway.
Anyone else? Zach?
Sure, I'll go ahead and go. So first of all, I just want to thank staff for the hard work and time put into this, the Blue Ribbon Committee, our consultant. I know a lot of time and energy was put into this, and listening to your presentation, Matt, public meetings, pop-up events. I mean, I've had 35 events, plus the commissions, plus the social media. Like, that's pretty solid. So thank you for doing that. And then to the subcommittee, appreciate the time and energy you put into it as well. I did watch some of the meetings. I was very hands-off in this. I really wanted the Blue Ribbon Committee to do their thing and really dive into this. The meetings are on YouTube, so I would check in and kind of peek at what's going on. The fact that this document is like this big, it's wonderful. It's succinct. It's to the point. It's something that's going to guide our community for a while. And maybe, Gary, maybe you're right. Maybe we'll have to redo it in a few years, because we do have a knack for completing things. I'm really excited about everything in here. I think it's important that we keep equity in it. I think we have a responsibility to the community to keep it in there. One of the things that I like about this is a very high-level guiding document, and then we can have these transportation equity, transportation justice conversations when we do our budget. And then we can say, this is what we want to see in our community, and this is how we're going to do it, whether it's housing, whether it's transportation, whatever it is. So I'm excited to have this document on my shelf. It takes up very little space. I'm excited for that. I just really am appreciative of the time and energy that everyone's put into this. This is a great step for our community, so thank you.
All right, anyone else?
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right, well, I just want to say that was amazing. I like your word. I like the advocacy word, and I'll tell you why, because of what I do in the community as an advocate. And I have a very deep understanding that as an advocate, we're advocating for everyone. We're advocating for anything that people need. As an advocate, I look at advocates as a bridge to be able to get from them to a resource, from them to their need. And when I hear what people are wanting as equity, I can't agree with it. I don't agree with the foundation of what it stands for. But when I listen to what Mike Nagar had originally placed this back down with the Ready Commission as far as for supporting people with special needs, and there's needs for people and they can be met, and we have an amazing community. We have a community that just gave out over $1 million. And I think that was fair and it was equal. And I think we can, as a city, and we have always met the needs of our community. Is it perfect? No. It's never going to be perfect. I wish it could be. I wish we could live in a perfect world, but that's not right now. And the other thing is when I look at the surveys, the amazing surveys that were created, I don't, and maybe I'm reading this wrong, but I'm not seeing a high need for people who are wanting this. I'm seeing surveys that are done and being completed that people are really happy with our city. Again, is there room for improvement? Every day, every moment. But I don't believe that instilling a core equity value or an equity value into our city is going to change the hearts of people. You can't force people to change their hearts. The only way you can do that is by showing them how to behave and how to love one another. Not by just creating a word and then we have to do it. So my goal in this community in the next 2 years is going to be to establish the resources I'm hoping that we have to be able to come together. Because that, to me, is what people need in the community. When we have problems in days where children aren't being fed, when children's feet don't have shoes, whatever that looks like. I cannot go along with this equity. I've been saying this for the last year and a half. I'm not going to change today. I am so excited to see the rest of what you guys have all put together. This is a beautiful document. I agree with Schwenk that it's a lot of work was done, and I've spoken to many of you. So I want to say thank you for that part. But as of today, unless we change that word to something as of advocacy or equality, I am unable to go along with this document. So.
Yeah. I'm gonna get to something here as soon as I can find it. Well, I understand the angst with the word equity, but I also believe that the Founding Fathers created this country with equity in mind by creating a republic and not a democracy. A democracy is basically majority rules, where a republic is there to, in a republic, laws are made by representatives chosen by the people and must comply with a constitution that specifically protects the rights of minorities from the will of the majority. And so, and that's really what we're doing here. We're not doing anything but that. We're living out what the Founding Fathers basically set forth for us, is we're just saying we're a republic. We're going to represent from the smallest group religiously, or the smallest group ethnically, or the smallest group. They're still going to have all the rights and privileges that our city has to offer. That's how I read equity. I don't read equity any other way. So, it can be morphed, it can be changed, it can be misinterpreted, there's a lot of things it could be. That's not what it is to me. So that's why I don't have a problem with it, because I see what the Founding Fathers did in creating a republic, and the republic is to protect the small minorities. So I'm okay with the document, I'm okay with the core value, because I do believe in what the Founding Fathers intended for our government when it was created. And that's exactly what it was intended for. So that's my opinion.
And Mr. Mayor, if I could, we actually defined what equity is in the document. And here's the definition. Equity values help remove barriers to ensure opportunities for all to prosper through data-driven decisions personalized to residents of the city. So remember, it's the city that's trying to be fair and equitable to all. So, and we do advocate for all. We want the best for all, but we have to make sure that we do not favor one group over another. And so it's our job to make sure that there are no barriers, or more specifically, that the city isn't accidentally creating some type of barriers so that people don't feel like they're included or welcomed or heard. And so that's what equity is in this document. It's to make sure we remove barriers. And by removing barriers, that doesn't take anything away from any group. It just makes things more beneficial for all. So equity is not taking something from one group and giving it to another. It's being fair and removing barriers.
So let me say a few things here. It's interesting of all. So first, it's an amazing document. We've got 10 years behind us for the first Quality of Life Master Plan. Am I right? That's 10 years ago when we did that. The first Quality of Life Master Plan was not without its own controversy. And if you remember going back to those meetings, the fact that the city included words like climate and sustainability, those were the buzzwords at that time, where everybody's like, oh my gosh, sustainability. And people were talking about how, the city's going to, take away people's property rights and reallocate wealth and, all of these things. And, and it was just dog whistling of, words. That wasn't how the city defined sustainability. It wasn't how the city defined climate. Climate was just a response to, AB 32 and state laws and things that we had requirements to do from an air pollution and a quality of life and a health perspective. And so 10 years down the road, Temecula isn't worse off because we included the word sustainability in it. I don't think the country is worse off by having the word equity included in the Constitution, Article 3, Section 2, 235 years ago. It's done its job. We don't use that word as much as we used to, but back in the day, we used to have courts of equity all across the United States. And their job wasn't to, do what everybody calls equity today. Their job was to do what it was constitutionally defined to do in the courts of equity. Now, we don't call them there. I think there's only 2 states left that actually refer to them as courts of equity. Peter, maybe you know. There's a good law question. I think there's only 2 states. I can't say either. It's like Maine and New Hampshire or something weird. But not that they're weird states. Sorry, Maine and New Hampshire. But everybody else has moved on to other, common law, tort law, other conceptions of this. But the word itself shouldn't be a scary word because we control how it's defined. It goes back to the Reddy Commission. 2.5 years, roughly, we've had the Reddy Commission around. People were in such opposition to the Reddy Commission. And I just want to ask, what has the Reddy Commission done that has eroded the quality of life or the safety or the well-being or the, whatever it is in the city of Temecula that everybody's so upset about? It's just this constant dog whistling that goes on of the use of words. And you say you're worried about the word equity. Why? What is it in this document? Not how somebody else defines it. Not that we're imposing equity on people and we're telling all the residents of Temecula, be equitable. That's not what this document says. This document says in city operations, we are going to do things a little bit differently. And that means, from an equity standpoint, making sure that people who don't have English as their first language are able to access information on our websites and our public meetings and our documents and other things. That's what equity means for us. So if there's something specific that was put into this document that says, this is making me really uncomfortable, I don't think this is the right direction the city needs to go, then let's talk about that. But if it's just a word, Lene, I appreciate you coming forward with, your conversation from the Planning Commission. I'm disappointed because the Planning Commission didn't vote on that. That wasn't a recommendation by the Planning Commission. It wasn't a universal agreement that, Lene, bring forward a change in the term. We could change it to advocacy. We could change it to abracadabra. But the core of what it does is what matters, not the word itself. If somebody wants to take that word and define it differently than we have as a city, all they have to do is read literally 4 pages, and most of it is pictures, anyway, of what equity actually means in the city of Temecula. And it shouldn't be scary. Voting against a document because it has a word that you may interpret as scary, that's okay, because we've actually defined it. And Marianne, I think the definition, that you read off is actually where it is. And so I'm not as concerned about this because this city council holds that, integrity. Recently I had somebody talk to me about the Reddy Commission. It was kind of comical because they said, the words equity, diversity, inclusion, they're all part of the city documents now, and that's how the liberals get in and erode the city of Temecula. And they're already in these foundational documents. This is what's going to happen. That's like, but these words are part of our culture. These words are part of a lot of what we do. And look, if the scary liberals get in, they can put these words anywhere they want to. Anyway, it doesn't matter if it's already in a document somewhere. It's just the absurdity of the conversation needs to be grounded in something that this document is doing that is actually concerning, whether it's to you or somebody else. If you bring up an actual concern, then we can deal with the tangible. If not, I'm not going to worry about it.
If I can, I don't want to have a conversation about it because you guys already. What does that look like though for you? Like, what is equity going to do? Should we not already be there as a city? I guess it just kind of breaks my heart the fact that we actually have to put this in as a core value because I remember, Mayor Ron, that one of the things during that meeting that my heart, I love that you said is, let's have a core value of a small city. I think it was a small town or a small town feeling, and that got lost.
Well, it's not. It's in our.
But you wanted it as as a core value in itself. Like I think that's what you wanted to call it.
But it's integrated throughout the entire document.
I'm just saying what you had. Yeah. But now what I'm saying is now we took equity as a core, as a what do they call it?
Just a core value.
Core value, thank you. As a core value. So that's all I'm saying is it's, for me, if you really want to know, I look at this and something, I think I've said enough. It is what it is. We're not even going to change each other's minds. No. I know everybody wants to go home. Everybody knows where I stand. Nothing personal. I think they did a great job. I cannot go along with it. My people that I represent that have asked me and who have put me here would not want me to go along with that. So that's where I stand.
Okay. Well, I'm looking for a motion in a second then.
I will happily move the item.
Second.
All right, please cast your votes.
Councilmember Alexander, I will go ahead and record a no for you and an aye for the balance.
All right.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Can I say one final thing?
Yes, sir.
Just a matter of recognition. I know there was a lot of people recognized here tonight, and they all deserve recognition, but I would be remiss if I didn't recognize Matt Peters for the work he did on this. This was a multi-year project, one of the more difficult projects, because it really was a herding cats kind of effort. Unprecedented outreach. He did it with class and style, and he did it on time and on budget, and he deserves that recognition. Thank you, sir, for all you've done. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Items for future city council agendas. Anybody?
Mr. Mayor, can I give a city manager report real quick? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, we're not there yet. Whoa, slow your roll. All right. Anybody? Future items? Seeing nothing. Mr. City Manager, we'd love to hear your report.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump the gun there. No, just two things. I couldn't let this go. The action the City Council took tonight was truly historic. Let me just start first with the COVID reinvestment program, $14 million. And I can say this because my colleagues up and down the state of California, and I know many of them, when they were allocated these federal dollars, which they were originally and we reprogrammed, many cities used that opportunity to plug a budget hole. Maybe they used it to fund their pension obligations. Maybe it went to salaries and benefits. Maybe it went, they kept it for themselves. I am so proud of this city council, this city staff that chose to take $14 million and face it outward and give it back and reinvest it back into the community. I could not let that get lost this evening because we could have done so many different things easily. But the reason it was an easy decision is because we had our financial house in order. We weathered the pandemic. We did well. We managed our resources. We had good fortune on our side. We balanced our budget, and we didn't touch our reserves. So we could take $14 million, and we could push it out right back into the community. So that's one. Secondly, the Quality of Life Master Plan, historic. I was a project manager 15 years ago. I can appreciate what Matt Peters has been through for the last 2 years. And this document drives everything that we're doing. It is arguably the most important document that we can vote on, that will guide the city, the priorities, the funding, the land use, the general plan. It's going to do all of that. And so the action that you took this evening, not only is it appreciated, there's so many people, I'm not even going to try to name them all the city staff, all the commissioners, the city council, the community, all the leadership, amazing job. My thanks. This is going to be fantastic. And I will go on the record, Commissioner Oddie, we will get this done earlier. We will be picking these things off faster than expected, just like we did last time. So with that, I thank the city council for the action tonight.
All right, Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, we had a closed session as indicated on the agenda, and there are no reportable actions under the Brown Act for that.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and close the meeting today, and we'll see you back here on November 29th. Thank you.